Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Dartmouth School Committee to order for Monday, March 27th, 2017. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Well, good evening once again, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Dartmouth School Committee meeting for Monday, March 27th. I'd like to remind you that this meeting is being videotaped by our own Dartmouth High School students for future broadcasts on the DCTV as well as the Dartmouth High School YouTube channel. And also, if anyone requires any type of hearing assistance, that Mr. Parati, our television production teacher, has informed me that there is hearing devices available for any of those in our audience that are having a hard time hearing the meeting tonight. So we're stepping up our game here at the school committee. Also like to remind you, any cell phones, electronic devices, if you could please silence those at this time, I would appreciate it. Roll call, Ms. Boucher.
Mr. Newens?
Yep.
Dr. Karantonis?
Here.
Mr. Garth?
Here.
Dr. Jenkins? Here. And Mr. Oliver?
Here. Thank you, Mrs. Boucher. At this time, anyone wishing to speak on any of tonight's agenda items with the exception of the school choice hearing, which we cannot open up until 6:45 because it was posted in the paper for 6:45. We do have to wait till 6:45 to open up the school choice hearing, the public hearing on that. Anyone else wishing to speak on any of the other agenda items may do so now. Approach the podium. I'll take that as no one's interested. Thank you very much. Yes.
Motion, we take the minutes out of order and get that out of the way.
Agreed. So because the hearing doesn't start till 6:45, we're going to skip over that and we'll come back. At this time, I will entertain a motion for the approval of the regular session minutes of March 6, 2017.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Dr. Jenkins on the motion. Any discussion?
I wasn't here, so.
Either was I. Yep. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I will abstain. Dr. Karafotis will abstain. So motion passes 3-0 with 2 abstentions. Next up, I'll entertain a motion to approve the executive session minutes of March 6, 2017.
So moved, Mr. Chairman, with the stipulation that it be held until the matter for which they were intended is complete. Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Mr. Garth. On the motion, any discussion? Chair hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I will abstain. Motion passes 3-0 with 2 abstentions. Let's skip down to the consent agenda, and we'll continue from there. I'll come back to the Potter School presentation, because I know you guys have put a lot of time in that, and I don't want to rush you. In your package, you should have received 4 requests a request for 4 DECA students to attend the DECA International Career Development Conference Competition in Anaheim, California, on April 25th through the 30th of 2017. Is there any discussion on that?
Good luck. That's
Absolutely
fantastic.
wonderful program.
I was very impressed with the way the students presented themselves last year. Great job.
The application looks complete. Dr. Gifford, do you have any concerns?
No, I would just like to read off the students' names and
Sure.
the awards that they won. We have Anthony Root, first place in role play and third place in the Human Resources event, and he also qualified him for international competition. Kenny Maxfield, first place in role play and top 10 overall in Principles of Finance event. Hannah Cavallo, top 10 in Principles of Marketing. And Ari Silva, top 10 in Written Advertising Campaign. And as Dr. Karafotis said, the students last year, if they're anything like that, they were so impressive that we certainly wish them a lot of luck in this competition.
Sure.
Agreed. Thank you, Dr. Gifford.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Nunes, second by Mr. Garth. On the motion, any further discussion?
So can I'd just like to add, we talk about this, and I'd like to highlight This is an expensive trip that students are paying a significant amount of money out of pocket. Each of the students is gonna have to pay over $1,000 out of pocket. These are the sorts of things that we support through private fundraising in our school agenda, like the band, like athletics, and I'm glad that the students are able to do this, but, you know, it would be nice if we could start to pay for some of these things out of the regular budget.
Or even subsidize it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Any other discussion?
If we had the $8 or $9 million, if we were at the state average for per pupil expenditure, we wouldn't have to have these discussions.
Absolutely.
It would be wonderful.
We'd be funding them internally.
That's right.
I would also add, as vocational schools are able to do, even though their students didn't do as well as ours did.
Thank you, Mr. Garth. This time, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, we're still a little bit early, so we are going to skip down. I don't think the budget vote at this time is appropriate. Can we have the capital improvement plan update, Mr. Kiley?
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. So we've met with the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, and there's going to be some further discussion about this at our joint meeting, which is coming up. But their initial recommendation is going to be to support our middle school roof project and to supply us also with technology monies that we requested.
Okay.
So those will be the two projects that they support for the June town meeting. In June, typically, the funding for capital improvements is, they've been supporting the technology initiative that we've been putting forth each year. And beyond that, it's usually items that are for borrowing purposes, whereas in the fall town meeting in October, they'll fund smaller projects that wouldn't normally be borrowed. So we've had this good discussion with them, and we feel that they'll certainly be supportive in the fall of at least some of our projects. The item that was the largest item, that besides the middle school roof, was the stadium project, and that would have had to be a borrowing. There was some discussion about that project. I know that Mr. Cressman had indicated that he would be supportive of that project if it were not for the middle school roof. So we are at that point where between the middle school roof and the library project in town, that it wasn't possible to fit it in their borrowing capacity for that project, so.
Sure. I know that actually at the school committee meeting that was held at the high school, we kind of had a conversation about the CIP plan, in that there was conversation about reaching out to other departments in town and seeing if this could be, not just because I think we're all in agreement that this really isn't just a school department, concern or problem. This is a town problem due to the amount of different organizations that use the stadium.
Yep.
I'm sorry?
Or could use it.
Or could use it, exactly. So I'm just curious as to whether or not any meetings have taken place with other departments, or has that just been put on hold right now?
Well, I've had some discussions with the Parks Administration regarding it, and I think that they would be generally supportive of any project that would improve conditions for the kids in town. So, that being said, they're not really in a position to, they're certainly in a position where they could support, but in terms of funding, it's really gonna have to be something that fits into the town's borrowing, unless there's some private.
Well, that was something else that I
opportunities.
believe this committee had discussed was, looking to private funding sources
Right.
as well to help defray or offset those costs.
We did have some discussion with the Capital Improvement Planning Committee about bringing back some group similar to the Fields Group that was in place a few years ago, to begin those discussions again.
Okay. Questions? Mr. Garth?
With regard to the middle school roof, I think it's not lost that if the town meeting approves that project in June, by the time borrowing, planning, purchasing take place, the likelihood of beginning that over the course of the summer is very unlikely, correct?
Right, June 6th is town meeting. Even with all the advanced planning that's humanly possible, by the time you bid it, we'd bid it out so it would open right at town meeting, right that day or the day after, basically. But what would happen is then you need to sign contracts, get insurance documents, bonding documents that these companies have to obtain. Then they have to submit what they call submittals, which are everything that they're going to use, the specifications. That all has to be approved by the architects before they order it. So that takes about a month. So you'd be in July before you could even order anything. And some things like insulation on a roof project like this, when you have to, you order custom tapered insulation so that water drains to the existing roof drains or new ones if you're putting them in, it takes many weeks. So the likelihood is that it would be impossible to do this before the start of school. I mean, you could do some things, but you wouldn't be able to accomplish it. So it would look like it would be beneficial to push it off till the following summer.
Yes, Mr. Nunes.
Thank you. Mr. Kiley, are they gonna, at that point, it becomes moot, but I was just curious, we had talked about maybe putting this additional money on the special town meeting so that it was available quicker.
We've had that discussion with, and I think they're open to it on the town side. Whether we need it,
Yeah.
it might not be necessary by the looks of it. And at this point, we have funding available to cover more than any costs that we currently have.
Right.
So it would really just be if we're actually going to order the roofing materials and start ripping the roof off, which we wouldn't be doing it before June 30th.
Right.
so.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Dr.
So
Jenkins.
I want to come back again around to the fields, right? So we're looking most likely not this year, which means at the very earliest, we're looking at the 2019,
Correct.
probably, football
Yep.
season before we may, and that even then the timing is, because we may not get it funded till October. I mean, I just want to
Right.
put this out here that now we're looking at another 3 high school sports seasons, probably, in that stadium, because we can't come together as a town to figure that out. And I know the capital improvement committee has been very supportive, but, I have to say I'm really disappointed that we're going to have to play so many more years now with such what's really an outdated facility.
Well, we're disappointed too.
Yeah.
It's conflicting priorities. Obviously, the roof, we're in a position with the MSBA that
Right.
if
Well,
we
have,
want.
and we have to do the
Yeah,
roof,
we
I
have to do the
understand that.
roof, and
Right.
we need the $3 million that the MSBA is going to contribute. But, yeah, it's a difficult situation, and we're disappointed too. And if we get money for a project like that in June, that's also going to be a difficult project to get in
Right.
place by the time you need
Right.
it, so.
Agreed.
No, you
that's-
can't,
Right.
that's
Right,
something
so-
that's gotta get done. I would think that's something that has to be done.
2019 at the
Well-
earliest.
Put the shovel in the ground the
Right.
day after Thanksgiving to start
Right.
ripping it out.
Right,
Right.
very true.
You know,
Mr.
whatever you
Rapp?
can get done there.
I'll take one more and
Yeah,
then we gotta move
I
on.
mean, I recognize the time, but I think the point that I would make is the conversation we're having does a good job of explaining the situation the town is in. Updating the stadium is part of making us a 21st century school district. Fixing the roof that's leaking is part of maintaining the safety and security of our buildings. And as a school district, we need to be doing both, but our finances don't allow us to, and so we have to make choices. Sometimes we choose the 21st century, sometimes we choose, and you can argue with either side, but we only have the money that we have.
Anything else, Mr. Kiley?
I could just give you a brief update on the facility master plan.
Why don't we hold off
Hold it?
until
Okay.
after the public
Okay.
hearing?
Sure.
All right. So at this time, we will open, the time is actually 6:47, we'll call it. I will open up the public hearing at this time for school choice. Let me remind you that this is a public hearing, so you may approach the podium, in any fashion you'd like. Please keep in mind that we're here to just listen to you at this point. We will take any comments, concerns, suggestions that you have into consideration during our deliberation period, which will be happening later on in the evening under, I believe it's under old business, or actually under new business, the school choice vote. That's the time which we will be deliberating about about school choice. So I would welcome those people in the audience, anyone wishing to speak regarding school choice. The public hearing is now open. You may approach the podium.
You have to do it at the
I'm
podium.
sorry, you have to come up to the podium and please state your name once you're up there.
My name is Christy Canastra. I have two daughters at the high school. One is a freshman, and school choice has affected her. My concern is that I am a single mother. I've been living in Dartmouth for 20 years. After my divorce 10 years ago, I still wanted my kids to attend Dartmouth School. It was a great school. That's why we had moved here. And I live in a really tiny house trying to make ends meet so that my daughters can continue to go to school in Dartmouth. So seeing people from other areas being able to come to school in Dartmouth is really hurtful to other parents like me. I know I'm not the only one. I've heard from other people, why should children in other towns get the benefits of Dartmouth without living here? We pay taxes here, we support the school system, sports, everything else, while other towns don't, but their kids get to come to school. Also, when we were told about school choice last year, it was supposed to be 15 incoming freshmen and 15 sophomores. That was written out, that's where I read it. However, that's not the case, and the majority of them are in the freshman classes. Most of them are in honors classes, most of them are sports players. I'm not exactly sure how these children were recruited, because I know that the high school cheer coach who wanted her daughter to go to Dartmouth School didn't even know about this. So I'm not exactly sure how the kids were recruited.
There was no, just for the record, there was no recruiting.
So how would the
recruit.
children, how did they know about it?
It was, we spoke about it at length at several school committee meetings.
And
And then it was posted
in
on
the
the
paper.
school
It was on the
website.
school website.
So if someone lived in Acushnet, they would have had to look on the Dartmouth website?
It was in the paper also.
It was also in the
Was it in the paper? I believe it
a
was in the
I'll have
paper
to
as
look
well.
that up. The other thing is, the concern is class size. Are the Dartmouth students getting the electives that they want as opposed to, students from other towns? Are they getting the electives that they want before our own students that live here? The other thing is, a lot of the freshman girls didn't make sports teams. That's very important. We pay money for camps all these years, and now they don't even make their own team because children from other towns have taken their spots. Now, I know that sports is probably not important to everybody else, but we're talking about scholarships and things like that. Scholarships that go to Dartmouth High School students. Well, when my daughter's a senior, someone from Westport or New Bedford might get that scholarship, and that's not really fair to our students in Dartmouth. I know that there was a big thing about the well-being of our students and, supporting them, but has anybody talked to these students to see how this really has affected them? Because I know I hear about school choice all the time in my house, so it has affected us. It's affected my daughter's friends. But, has anyone really talked to the students that this has affected? Probably not, to see how it's been a negative impact for them. It has some animosity towards students of other towns. They stick together, and it's just not really a good thing. So that's all I just wanted to say, to please consider that.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Hello, my name is Judith Lima, and I live in Dartmouth. I also am a public educator. So I'll first like to say, regarding education just at large, education, as we know, is in fact the equalizer. And offering all students opportunity is my educational philosophy, and providing those opportunities in a platform that lives to the spirit of what school choice is. So I would ask the school committee, if in fact you are in favor of having school choice for another school year, I would ask that in the spirit of what school choice is, as the previous lady just spoke about, and I'm sorry, I forgot your name, that if you're going to offer it, then make it at large, so it doesn't become perceived as a closed opportunity for some students. Because I'm sure there are many students and families, maybe from other communities, who would take advantage of coming to Dartmouth. So if you're going to offer school choice, again, in what the spirit of what school choice should be, then you would have to, in good faith, I would imagine, offer it or make it public so that everybody in all communities could take advantage of that.
Can I be really clear about this? It is open to anyone. It is at large. Once we take a vote, positive or negative, if the vote is positive, it is open to any student who wishes to attend. There is a deadline for submitting applications. Last year, we had fewer students apply than slots, so everyone who applied was admitted. This year, it may be different. If that's the case, we are required by law to do a public lottery that is open to the public and drawing those names. Any student from any community, so long as they want to get their students here, may apply.
Yeah, and I'm not suggesting that that was not the case, because I simply don't know. I'm just saying that I think, like, in good faith, if Dartmouth is going to offer a school choice opportunity, then there should be some commitment to ensure that many people know about it, because I don't know how many people would necessarily go to a website if they don't know that something is being offered. So I think we have a fiduciary responsibility, if we're going to offer school choice, to make some kind of public awareness, again, so that it in fact is school choice for anybody who wants it. And then the lottery obviously becomes the mechanism in which you select students to keep things, with integrity and fidelity in process. And then the other thing I would like to say is, I'd like to ask a question. I'm not sure, but from an economic standpoint, how much is it that if we send a student from Dartmouth to Voc, that we pay per student?
A lot more than we are getting in school choice.
Yeah. So my second comment is from an economic standpoint. So again, I believe in opportunities for all students. It's what I believe in my heart as an educator. But I would ask you to consider the economic balance that comes with that. So in fact, if Dartmouth is paying double that amount to send a student out of district, then logic would tell me that we should then be receiving something very comparable, because Dartmouth, as we know, which is why all of us are here, why many of us live in Dartmouth, Dartmouth has amazing school systems, and we are all blessed that our students enjoy the education that they get from Dartmouth. We're blessed from all the programs that our children benefit from. And so there's a value to that. And so I think if we're going to offer school choice, I would like to see some balance on the economic side. Because if you take the 30 students times 5,000, that barely covers the salaries of two teachers when you factor in benefits and that thing. And then the third thing I would like to say, again, I just want to piggyback what I heard. I think we do have a very active student body at Dartmouth High School, and I think there would be some value to just get their input and what their perception is and their thoughts about, school choice and the impact. I don't know, I've not seen an impact study on, what all the ramifications are from opening up a school choice opportunity to students outside, of the town. And I think there's some value to just looking at and at all the drawdowns from that. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lucky for us, we have Stacy here this evening who will provide us later on when we're deliberating for some feedback from the students' perspective.
Hi, I'm Carrie Oswald. I have two students, an elementary school student and also a middle schooler. I'll start by saying that I did not grow up in this town. Actually had the pleasure of having Miss Roy as a teacher a little while ago. But I have lived in town for 23 years. I've owned a home for 20 years. I married into Bleeding Green. And I'll tell you that I bleed green as well. I work for an area high school, and I will lean towards Dartmouth every time. We made a decision early on to look into buying a house in Dartmouth, paying the taxes that we pay in Dartmouth, because we wanted our children to be able to go to the Dartmouth schools. We have supported Dartmouth youth sports, activities, academics, all the way through. And that's what makes this school choice pill a little bit hard to swallow, is that you've got students that have been participating in sports throughout the years, participating in band, community theater, and academics, and looking when they get to the high school to be able to continue on with that. And what school choice is, suggesting is that you're going to bring 30 to 40 other students from out of town into the school system to be taking up those spots, and taking up the spots in the band, taking up theater roles, scholarship dollars. I mean, those 30 to 40 students are going to be able to, as students of Dartmouth, now take scholarship dollars that our students were eligible for. I've heard mention of, really looking towards thinking for the students. But as a parent, it's hard to swallow. Can you imagine what it feels like to a student that has worked so hard through elementary school, middle school, and they get to high school and they get knocked down because, there were 4 or 5 other kids from Westport or New Bedford that, took their spot on a team or took their role in a play. I just, have a couple questions. I know that there's mention that 300 or so students leave the middle school and go on to other schools, Voc and the private schools. I feel like school choice is just going to kind of shoot you in the foot in the way that kids are going to start seeing that the opportunities are going to be less and less at Dartmouth High School, and they are going to be moving even more, and you're going to have more than 300 kids that are going to be going out to those other schools. And I don't know what acts are being taken to try to keep those students here in the district. I'd like to hear about that. I'd also like to hear about what the choice process is. I've spoken to the registrar at Old Rochester, and they have a complete lottery system, and good, bad, and ugly, they take that information and the applicants, and they put them in a lottery, and they have the parents come that are the applicants' parents, and they literally pick names out of a box, and so that everybody sees that it is a lottery. I also am just questioning as well where the money from the school choice is going to go. I saw mention in an article in the Standard Times that it's going to go into some maybe a revolving fund, or is that okay?
That is correct.
Okay, so not knowing, I'll be the first to say, don't know anything about the budget, so why is it not going directly into the budget? And
That's the
what
law.
State law.
benefit?
law.
That's a state law,
It's a s-
okay. And so how will those funds be used?
They will be used directly, and once again, we're going to be deliberating shortly under new business, but it's there for the benefit directly to the students. It's under our control. The town cannot take school choice funds. It's a reimbursement program, so we see the money the following year in our chapter as part of our reimbursement funds. So we will have, when we get our budget for next year, for FY '18, we'll have $150,000 in that school choice line available for us to do, as a school department, what we want to do with it.
Okay. And can anyone speak to what the process was for the students this current year? Like how they were brought in? I was
Well,
told that, you know, like some of the cases were that hundreds of phone calls were made by parents, so we took that kid in. What other were?
I'll agree with you, there's a lot of rumors and misconceptions out there, unfortunately, partially due to social media. And I'm hoping that this board can answer all your questions when we're deliberating a little bit later on.
Okay, so we will have lots of answers to the
Absolutely.
questions. Okay.
Yep.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Anyone else? Come on up.
I'm sorry I was late. I missed a little bit of it, so I have my own questions and concerns, and I'm sorry if it repeats what she may have
Sure, I
asked.
just need you to please state your name and just know that this is just a public session, and we're really not responding to too many questions. We'll be deliberating at the end when we make the school choice vote, and try
Okay.
to answer any of your questions then.
Okay, my name is Tracy Souza.
Tracy,
Souza,
okay, thank you.
you're welcome. I know last year, lots of people from Dartmouth did not know about the school choice until after it was already implemented, and we found out once we realized that these students were walking around in the school. And we had the issue that came up with sports and the plays and the scholarships and whatnot. So I just kind of wanted to try to get ahead of it and figure out who decides all of this. I have been on social media, as I'm sure you guys are aware. And I posed the question, who is the school committee supposed to be representing? Is it supposed to be representing the parents of the town and what their wishes are? Because I can see a lot of parents out here, I don't know who's for it and who's against it. And it seems like I see a lot of heads shaking, no, they're not for it. But I think a lot of parents feel like they were blindsided and slighted, and their voices weren't heard, and their opinion wasn't asked. And if left to a vote, you know, maybe they would have voted different. And I know in social media, a lot of you said, like, we didn't have a choice. There was no funding. We had to do something. But if you sent maybe, I don't have the magic bullet, but maybe a survey home with the high school kids and said, okay, we don't have any money, we need to come up with X amount of dollars. We're sending a survey home to all the high school kids and their parents, and we want the parents to get back to us and say, okay, we're short money, we need to do something. Would you rather pay $200 for a sports fee, or $100 for your child to be in the play, or an extra $100 for the busing, or school choice? This is what we can do to get funding, and leave it up to the parents to have a vote. Or maybe the parents can come up with another idea or whatever. But I kind of feel like we're expressing our opinions to tell you that we aren't in favor for this, and everyone's like, okay, we hear you, and it's not the best choice, but we have no other choice. But maybe the parents do have an idea, or maybe the parents would be willing to pay extra, because I know you were talking about, oh, you know, nobody wants to pay extra in taxes, and when we try to get that money, it's always voted down, no, no, no. But if you pose the question, if we don't get more money, we're gonna have to do school choice, instead of just coming up here and say, we need more money. Well, if somebody came up to me and said, I need more money, I'd say, find a way to do it.
I'm going to stop you right there, because some of what you're saying is really incorrect. The school choice public hearing process is something that has gone on for as long as I can remember in this state and in this district. Last year, under a lot of open dialogue amongst this committee, as well as the public hearing, as well as it being posted in Dartmouth Community Television, as well as the public hearing being posted, like it usually is in the Standard Times, I know of at least 2 separate school committee meetings in which Dr. Gifford presented us with the facts on school choice, because I'll be honest with you, I have one student right now in the system who's going into 6th grade. And I was on the fence before the vote last year. I was on the fence.
Yep.
I didn't know which way I was going, because Dartmouth, and we knew as a school committee that this may rub some people the wrong way. However, we needed to try it as an alternative funding source. It brought in $150,000 this year, which is nothing to sneeze at. Like I believe Ms. Lima said, that's two teachers at the very least. And we're revisiting, school choice is revisited every single year for a vote. So just because, like we said, it was approved last year, doesn't mean that we're going to approve it tonight. However, I do take offense when people say that this wasn't publicly acknowledged or we're trying to slight people. None of us were trying to slight people up here.
I'm not saying that you were deliberately trying to slight people. I'm saying that the parents felt slighted. Did anybody in here, with a show of hands, know that school choice was happening?
No, we're not doing that now.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like,
We're not
I
doing
know
that
a
now.
lot of the parents.
I run
felt
the
that.
meeting, not you.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, I know a lot of the parents didn't. I'm saying a lot of the parents didn't know. I know you put it out there and stuff like that, but they didn't know until after the fact, and I'm just telling you, that's how it is.
Okay.
I'm not saying that school choice is the best decision, I'm just saying that a lot of parents want the choice. So I know you're gonna vote, I know how some of you are gonna vote, because you've already told me how you're gonna vote. And if it's left to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I know 3 of you are gonna vote yes, you're for it.
There's 5 school
Okay,
committee
so then 3 of you are gonna vote for it, because you already told me you were gonna vote for it, so we know it's already gonna pass this year. So, if you're gonna add, my question is this: school choice was a Band-Aid for, to get the funding that we needed, because we had no other option this year. Next year, coming up that you're gonna vote on, it's probably gonna pass, because of what I've already read on social media. So now we have 2 years in a row, we've allotted 30 slots. Let's think about the impact of that. Let's think about, okay, now we've put a Band-Aid on a problem instead of trying to fix the problem. So maybe we can take a survey and find out why the kids are leaving in the first place. Maybe you send a survey out and say, would the parents be willing to pay more money so we don't have to do school choice? Because maybe they would be, and we wouldn't have to do this. And then if we do school choice 2 years in a row, and that's 80 slots, where does it stop? How many more years do we do this? We need to come up with a fix, because that's not the optimum choice.
I'm gonna be honest with you, you're bringing up some really good points, and to some extent, I'd love for you to say, you know what would fix this? You know what would fix the problem so we don't have to go out to school choice or consider this an option? Because what this board is doing, or trying to do, is that we're trying to come up and think outside of the boxes
Right.
on how to provide the students in this town with the best education and the most finances possible.
Right.
What this town needs in
Your comments and we'll
one second, and Mr. Goff can correct me later on, is that we're in the bottom of per pupil expenditures in
Right.
the state, as you probably have done your research and your homework. In that, one of the things I'd love to see is I'd love to see an override for the schools. That'll get us more money. Will it ever pass? I don't think so.
But if you
So-
said not just the override, oh, we need an override, but you can say, we need an override, and if we don't get it, then we might have to go to school choice.
That's a threat. All right. I understand what you're saying, and I really do truly appreciate some of the comments and points you've made.
And my other thing is, we have to think about, the Peyton Aaron Bridge is closed. So traffic already at that intersection at school time is an absolute nightmare. I live on that road, so I know what it's like. You let 30 kids in last year, they don't get busing, so that's 30 more cars going down there. Now this year, if there's another 30 to 40, word's gotten out, because the towns are like, the other people in the other towns are ranting and raving about it. So all those slots are gonna be filled up, so that's another 30 cars. So now you're talking about 70 cars additional going through that intersection.
They are provided public transportation so long as they drive their kids to one of our bus stops. So not all of them are driving.
Oh, so now they're on the public transportation.
If
For the
they
town.
drive their
There's
kids
room.
to the bus.
That's
And
not
if
what
there's
it is.
room,
There's room.
only if there's room. That's not an obligation by law.
Okay, so if we do this
Yeah.
every year,
We're not obligated to do it.
Right.
If there's room, we will provide them transportation.
okay. So that question's been answered. So, let me just look at my other question. Oh, my other question was, I know that I heard a comment on social media, why, not a lot of parents are against it. I haven't seen any polling numbers. How do we go about getting polling numbers? Can we put the question on, I know the school committee vote is coming up on April 4th, where we're gonna can we put a question on there? Do I
Not at
need
this
to,
point,
do
we
we need to
cannot.
go out and get signatures
No.
on a petition? Like,
You
how
can
do we go about
contact, you
doing
can
that?
contact the town clerk if you would like.
We can't answer any more questions at this point. That being said, we're going to be deliberating and talking about some of these very things later on in the meeting.
Okay, hang on a second. So we don't have a plan in place going forward to, about school choice and how many, is there a cap to how many we would take? I know you said there's a cap every year, like 30 to 40 students, but are we gonna do this for 10 years to get to the
No, we're
300
not gonna-
students that we're missing?
No, we're not going to be doing this.
Is
for
there a
10
plan in place to say?
We don't know.
We have to
This is
consider
year
it
to
by
year.
law, every year by law. We must consider it.
Okay, and even, so,
So next election, we may have 2 more new people here. We cannot make any plan because we don't know who's going to be sitting at this table. Every year by law, we must vote on school choice.
okay,
And the superintendent gives us a recommendation based on class sizes, what room we have in each class. Right now, our guesstimate is based on a pretty sizable gap between what we can have at the high school and what we do. But it won't always be a nice round number, and it will change as the population grows. So if a lot of those students who are currently going to other places right now decide to come back to the high school, the number of school choice slots would go down.
okay, but there's no plan to
There
fix
can't-
it?
by law,
or
there can't
how
be a
many we're
plan.
gonna accept, or anything like that at this point?
No,
It depends on enrollment.
right.
It depends on enrollment,
Right.
how many students are there
Right,
already.
and the parents voicing their opinion, like if the majority of the people or the parents said that they don't like it, it still depends on what you guys vote?
Correct.
That's true, if I may, that's true to a certain extent. We have to vote on it, as the chairman has said, every single year.
Okay, then I
By
don't have any,
law.
I don't have any
The,
more further.
the only thing that probably, in fairness, once we take a school choice student, as long as they want to stay with us and they're a student in good standing, they stay with us.
Right, but
so-
if they become problematic, they're still part of the Dartmouth school system, so they still stay no matter what. Because
well-
once you accept them one time, if they, oh, here's my other question. The application from last year had 2 boxes on there. So you filled out the application and there was 2 boxes on there. Is your child part of an IEP program or a special needs program? Or is your child ever had disciplinary actions in the past? And you had to check yes or no. The newspaper reported that these were questions that could not be asked in the future. That's what the newspaper reported. I don't know if it was true or not.
Not true.
It's not true? Is that question gonna be on there? Because my question becomes this: if we can't ask that question, and then we do take a student, and that student does need extra help or whatnot, then doesn't the cost of that student go above
Yes.
and beyond and negate the fact of making money out of school choice? So are those 2 questions gonna be on the application or not?
Discussed this extensively last year. We can come back and discuss that around again this year. We did
That is,
discuss that, yeah, last year.
that is the reality of school choice. And in one of the conditions, though, we're taking students for only 4 years at this point. So if we do inherit a high-cost student, yes, it does defeat it for the short term, but not for the long term. We would pay those costs for a smaller number of years than, for example, if they were a K-12 student and we had that cost for 12 or 13 years.
There's also a process that, matter of fact, we are all looking at a webinar right now. Any students that might come in that need extensive services, we get reimbursed.
Not the full amount.
We
but a
fill
percent.
out
So are we
paperwork.
still, I guess my question is this: are we still making money on that student, like you're saying the school choice kids were making money on?
We
Or do we
Dr. Gifford did extensive research in other school districts last year who have had the school choice program, and we were not able to find one school district that lost money because of that. That was my main concern.
It's true.
And we did extensive research on that, and we found 0 evidence that that has been the case anywhere in the state.
Okay. All right. I guess asking the board to please listen to the parents out there, and I know you feel like you have no other choice, but if you could come up with some kind of decision where it's, the students of the town, the parents of the town, maybe pay extra money as opposed to school choice, because I know you're all gonna vote for it, because social media, the people, you guys told me you were gonna vote for it, and I just feel like the parents are not being heard. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Anna Veloso. I am also a teacher of the town, and I am also a parent of a sophomore and 2 elementary students. And I just feel I wasn't prepared to come and talk tonight on this, so I quickly put something together because it's really bothering me that unfortunately the dollars are coming before our students. So, as a teacher of this town, my job is to provide quality education for all. And that means all of the children in our town. I did not accept this job providing quality education I wanted to teach in this town because I wanted to benefit the children of this town, and that's what it should be. When we open the doors to others from other districts, we in turn are putting our own children aside. We have all bought houses in Dartmouth because we wanted them to come to our schools. I made a choice to teach in Dartmouth because I wanted to make the children of our town have a quality education. When that is starting to compromise their education, their extracurricular activities, I have a problem with that. That's really important. They're homegrown kiddos. We bleed green. I want to go to Dartmouth High. I want to be part of a team. I want to be part of the theater. I want to be part of the band. It's really not fair to them when their spot gets taken up by someone else. I love the people of Westport, New Bedford, Fairhaven, wherever they're coming from. But when you look down to it, you buy a house in that town for a reason. You can afford it. You can't afford it. I want my child to go to this school. I want my child to go to that school. That's, unfortunately, it's a part of life. And when you want your child to come to Dartmouth schools, it's because you believe in our school system. We have a really good school system, and our priority is the children of our town.
I'm sorry.
And as an educator, don't let our Dartmouth kids have their opportunity taken away just because of dollars. Please think about the students of this town and think about their goals and what they want to accomplish in high school, and don't jeopardize them in their learning and their extracurricular activities just because the dollar signs are there. Think about our students, please. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Someone in the back.
You've got to come up to the podium.
Dartmouth Public Schools. I just have a quick question for you. I understand school choice and how it works and how we are benefiting by children coming from other areas to help us with our income difficulties. Now, you said the $150,000 per year goes into a revolving account to benefit students. Can you be a little bit more clear how that will benefit our students? I know this is just the first year that you'll be collecting the $150,000.
We'll be discussing that actually right after this. I can't
Okay.
discuss, because
'Cause I
this is a
think-
public hearing.
I think the $150,000, if it benefits our students, because our students are having things taken away from them because of these other students entering into our school. So if it benefited us, scholarship money is a big hit for parents, for their children. The costs of education leaving Dartmouth High School is very high. So if you have another child coming from another district and getting scholarship money, which would be going to one of our own, that's a big hit. So I would like clarification on the $150,000. And I would also like to think that if it's 30 years, say 30 students for 4 years, that's 120 students, not just 30 students. So that's a bigger number than 30 a year. And I do see the benefits of the income, but I would give it a thought of how it would hurt our current students. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Do we need a motion to
Make a
close the
motion,
public
yes.
hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Dr. Jenkins to close the school choice hearing. Any discussion? Roll call, Mrs. Boucher?
Yes.
Dr. Karafotis?
Yes.
Mr. Gard?
Yes.
Dr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Yes. I would like to thank all those individuals that came up to the podium to express their concerns, ask questions about school choice. What I'm going to do at this time, just for everyone's own sanity, is that if it's okay, I'd like to have the pleasure of the committee to move the school choice vote to participate in the 2017-2018 school year, take that out of order and bring that up now so we can start that discussion right now so people don't have to wait.
Sounds good to me.
Dr. Jenkins.
So I'll make a comment. You know, it's great to have people come out and to be engaged, but this problem with our budget is not new. We put an override before the town, and the town said no, and we closed 2 schools. We closed Gidley, we closed Cushman, right? So to think that the town's going to say yes for school choice when they said no, and we had to close 2 schools for an override. We did athletic fees, and we did school bus fees, and let me tell you, the crowd was bigger than it was tonight in opposition to that. Right? We have tried so many things, and all of the people sitting up here tonight have donated thousands of hours to try to improve our schools. We're trying to do the best we can. If you had come to our public budget hearing where we reviewed our budgets, you would have seen Mr. Granfield got up and his outwork social worker came up and presented with the kids the amazing things that they are doing to develop leadership, to develop character, to engage them in the community. And then, you know, in my budget, I had to say to, you know, Cushman, nope, I'm sorry, I can't give you one of those. I had to say to DeMello, I'm sorry, I can't give you one of those either. You know, Quinn, I can't give you a math coach or a specialist to help your kids learn how to do math. I can't hire a certified behavioral analyst to help our kids with individual IEPs, right? I can't give the high school an instructional technology specialist. I can't give them textbooks. I can't give DeMello an additional classroom teacher. I wish that I could give you what you want, and I can give all of our educators what they want. But for me, when it comes down to it, teaching kids how to do math, teaching kids how to read, I got to figure out a way how to get to yes on that. I'm tired of saying no. I have worked so hard to get to yes in so many different ways in this community that I'm willing to try some new things. And I know it's hard. My kids are going to go into the high school. They're going to try out for band. They might not make it. My son's going to try out for soccer, and he loves soccer. He's probably not going to make the team. He may lose a slot to a kid outside of town. And you know what I'm going to say to him? I'm going to say that's life. You're going to pick yourself up, and you're going to find something else to do. And we're going to do the best we can for our kids. For me, I think, and all of us are motivated by what's best for our kids. And I can't continue to say no to our teachers, to our administrators who are doing so much with so little. And so that's why I'm going to vote yes, right? If you come to me and someone puts an override and they get that override passed, I will be happy to vote no on school choice if you give me the funds that I need. I have held signs, I have made phone calls, I have done so much, and I'm tired of saying no. So tonight I'm going to say yes, and I know that's going to make some of you not happy, but that's why I've come to where I am.
Thank you. Dr. Jenkins. I'm going to take Dr. Karafotis.
First of all, I appreciate everybody's different ideas, and it's always good to hear them. But I'm feeling a little upset right about now, especially with the term, we're putting dollars before children. No, we're not. No matter what you think, we're not putting dollars before children. We're not putting students into classrooms where their size will be larger than it's supposed to be. Those classrooms can take in other children, and that's what we're going to do. we have for years had teachers' children come into our schools, and they were accepted. They were from Westport, they were from New Bedford, they were from Fairhaven. To me, the thing that upsets me, I guess, the most, it's no feeling of inclusion here. Keep those kids out, like there's something wrong with them. Please, I mean, we're doing this because we're trying to do what's best for the system. And I don't care if a youngster's from Westport, I don't care if they're from Fairhaven, I don't care. A child is a child, a student is a student. I'm a teacher, I'm going to work with that student. If it comes to a point where I hear that it's detrimental to the high school, then I certainly will want to know more about that. And I certainly understand if your child was the one that didn't make the team. But I also have to look at the big picture. We'll have this money here. Maybe it's only $150,000, but there will be some equipment, there'll be something that will be used on to improve education for our students. And that's how I feel about it. And I'm really disappointed that it sounds like it's us and them, because we're here to help you, we're here to help the students. And I just find that upsetting. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Dr. Karafotis. Mr. Garth?
Thank you. I think, as a lot of people have talked about, this is probably one of the hardest questions that we as a school committee face. And I want the people who spoke tonight, and frankly, the people who have spoken to me for a year about this, to know that I think you do bring out some very important issues that we need to look at. My colleagues may not agree, but I heard loud and clear, we need to do a better job, if we keep this program, of letting the world know what we're doing. It's not just enough that we put it on our website and rely on people who've been paying attention to know that it's there. I think we need to be better at that. I think we need to talk about how we are integrating potential candidates. The idea of visiting our schools before you've put in here might be a source of the anxiety that's caused with our students. I can imagine the conversations, hey, I'm going to Dartmouth next year, an 8th grader saying, I'm going to be on this team, and what that import might be in the rest of the school building. It might be doing more harm than good. And if a student wants to come here anyway, maybe they have done all the investigation they need to do. I also think that I have 2 older children. I have a 9th grader, and I have a student who graduated a couple of years ago. And my 9th grader got cut from 2 athletic teams this year, and I'm devastated about it. But I'm just as devastated about my daughter, who, when she was a sophomore, tried out for the theater program. There were 9 slots in the theater program that year. 9 slots for a school of 1,200 to 1,300 kids. This problem about opportunities, I think, is real, but it's not just the result of school choice. I think we need to be expanding opportunities. I don't, for the life of me, understand why in the 9th grade we're cutting kids from athletics, or cutting kids from the band, or cutting kids from other programs. There are no tournaments, no championships, no scholarships to be won in the 9th grade. There's only a year to participate and develop. It's my hope that maybe the solution to what some people are asking about is that school funds are used to expand the very opportunities that you think are being diminished. Because that would be a direct student use, and it might be the most appropriate use of what we get right at the beginning. I understand this is hard, and I understand that there are a lot of people who are invested in the community right now who think there are other ways. I'm not sure that you're wrong, but I would say it's not a simple matter. Dr. Jenkins is right. The school committee has asked the community of Dartmouth for money before, and it has said no, and there are leaders in this community who believe it will always say no. It's my belief that school choice is the first step to getting them to think differently. We can now look at the rest of the town. We can look at the people at the top of the hill and say, we've done our part to raise money. We took the bullet, we did what was unpopular, now it's your turn to step up. And I think maybe that will be the key to starting a conversation. To my mind, Mr. Chairman, it's the first time we've mentioned the O word in the 3 years that I've been on the school committee. That's progress.
That is progress.
What word?
Override. I say it all the time. Chris just doesn't
say
listen
it.
to me.
I was going for effect there, but.
Like the O word. Thank you, Mr. Garth.
I would, Mr. Chairman, before we vote, I would like the superintendent to have the opportunity.
Absolutely. Mr. Nunes, do you have any comments?
Sure. I guess I'm the oddball.
Yes?
Yeah, in more ways than one. In all seriousness, I'm the one person that's not gonna vote for school choice. Now, not necessary, thank you. I've never voted for school choice, so nobody here tonight swayed me, okay? If you think I'm changing my mind tonight, I'm not. I haven't voted for school choice in all the years.
How many is
Okay.
that?
28, but who's counting?
He's in tens of thousands of hours.
Okay? It's just, for me, it's a fundamental thing. I just don't believe in it. But that being said, a couple of things that have a little bit set me off tonight, and I'll try to be real good about this. We had a hearing last year. I don't believe anybody spoke at the public hearing about school choice, for or against, okay? We closed the hearing, we took the vote, and it passed. I think it was probably a 4-to-1 vote. Again, I didn't vote for it, type of deal. People being blindsided, okay? We're on DCTV. It was in the paper. I think it was on the radio. It's on the website, word of mouth, social media, it's there. People nowadays are finding social media to be the wherewithal for everything, okay? And that's the gospel according to Facebook, social media, Instagram, whatever, okay? Take a look at the website. Take a look at what's going on, and you'll find that out there. The discussion has been made about overrides and everything else. Yeah, I've sat through a couple of them, type of deal, okay? They're not pretty, okay? I sat there at the hearing that we had at the high school, and we talked about what we were going to do if it didn't pass. We were gonna close 2 schools. We were gonna cut the ever-living daylights out of budgets. We were gonna put user fees in. We were gonna put transportation fees in. And here's what was gonna happen. Well, I think we got it handed to us 2-to-1. The parents, we have 4,000 students at the time in the school, okay? Should be 6,000 parents, give or take, type of deal, figuring, whatever. It was just my personal thought, okay? The parents didn't vote. The parents aren't registered to vote, okay? Give me a break, okay? We work very hard on this committee. I work very hard. I have for all the years, okay? And to sit here and say we don't care about kids and everybody else coming in, no. To the best of my knowledge, and I know sports because they're limited to what they can do, but I don't believe ever in my tenure, and everybody knows my involvement with our high school band and percussion and color guide and everything else. I don't think anybody's ever been cut from the band, okay? If you go out for the band, as long as you can play, bless you, as long as you can play an instrument and you can, march, and you don't have 2 left feet like I do, you're good, type of deal. They'll work with you, you get through it. I've seen it happen. So I'm going to vote no. And again, please don't walk out of here and say you changed Mr. Nunes' mind, John Nunes' mind. You didn't, okay? I said 2 weeks ago at our last school committee meeting that I wasn't voting for it. It's a fundamental issue for me personally. I respect my colleagues, and I know they respect my vote, but that's how I stand.
Thank you, Mr. Nunes.
Thank you. I apologize.
No apologies necessary. I am going to turn it over to our student representative from the high school, Stacy Hartman, who's usually reports out the happenings at Dartmouth High School at each meeting. But before she does that, in a little while, I'm going to ask her for if you could provide any feedback to what some students at the high school, if you've heard anything regarding school choice at the high school, we'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah, of course. I have a few things to say. So the first thing I just want to get out there is that I think everyone in this room can agree the top priority of our school system should be the well-being, the safety, and the educational experience of the students who are living in Dartmouth, because parents are giving up a lot to pay the higher taxes to live in Dartmouth. And I know my parents, when they moved into Dartmouth, they really had to And they had to get like a much smaller house just so they could send their 5 children to Dartmouth schools, and I really respect them for that. So we live in like a capitalistic society. I think that if you're paying the higher taxes to go to Dartmouth and other students who are living in, say, New Bedford with much lower taxes, then it's really not fair to those students in Dartmouth. So that's just the first point that I have. The second point I have is I haven't really felt like a huge impact because I'm a senior and the students added were sophomores and freshmen. But I realized that more of the students were they were added to the freshman class. So I was just wondering, like, why was it disproportionate?
It ended up just being
who
the amount of
applied? Oh, okay.
applications who
Okay,
applied.
so, okay.
More freshmen and sophomores.
And you can't really help that, right, because it's a lottery system?
Right.
Okay. Then another thing is, the pool of people that are like applying to be in school choice is going to be self-selected, because the people that want to come to Dartmouth High School are going to be students who are motivated, who want to get involved in sports, want to get involved in the drama club, want to apply for scholarships, and really care about that education. So I think that this strain is really going to be put on AP classes and honors classes and the scholarships and the extracurricular activities. And I think that's something that we're forgetting here, is that whole self-selection. And you know, I've had classes where like desks have had to be added, and so I don't see like where we have the extra room in like the AP system right now. The last thing I had was the question about the economic standpoint from this. I realize we get $5,000 per student from the districts that send their students here, but on average it costs about $12,000 per student each year. So if we're not really like making a profit from sending these kids here, then why should we keep?
I just want to clarify a couple of financial things.
Okay.
One, New Bedford's tax rate is approximately twice the tax rate of Dartmouth. So the assessed values are different, but their tax rate is double ours. So they pay $16.99 per $1,000 of residential property. We pay $9.84 per $1,000 of property. That's part of our problem, because our tax rate is well in the bottom, I think in the bottom 10 to 20% in the Commonwealth. We don't pay much in taxes in Dartmouth. The second thing I'll say is when you have a school, right, you have fixed costs, you have a principal, you have buildings, you have heat, you have all electricity, all of those sorts of things. If your class size, say you go from a class size of 100 to 90, you still have to offer the same classes in the same buildings, but you have 10% less money coming in because you have fewer students. So the cost of adding a 1 student to any class is not $12,000. It's just the cost of books and materials when there is capacity. And we had long discussions last year about what capacity was and where our capacity is and where's our peak and what our staffing levels are. So it's not that we're losing money, because much of that $12,000 is spent on fixed costs. Right, so if you went away, we'd still have to light the buildings and heat the buildings and have a principal and have janitors and have all that sort of stuff. And so that's how that works, that difference.
Do you have anything else, Lisa?
Just one more thing. I just feel like, I think a lot of like parents here would be willing to like help in fundraising efforts, or if we could apply like for grants from the state or something. I just think there's other ways to raise the money in a more efficient way so that you can make more money, because you're really not getting the whole $150,000. I realize that you are getting some of it, but adding 30 students or 60 students to the school is going to cost you a lot more.
Excuse me, say that last part again?
Oh, like adding like 30 students to the school or 60 students to the school, well, you're gonna have to hire other teachers.
We don't.
No,
No.
we're not ever going that way. We're only going to go as high as the class level recommendation is. So if there are 24 students in a class, we're not going to put in 5 more students, because if 24 is the level we want it at. So we wouldn't be hiring any more teachers. It's just going to be for the students, the level we're at. If you have a class with 18 students in it, you can put 7 in there, or 6, to bring it up. There have been some classes at the high school with only 4 or 5 students in them. So, you know, we're looking for ways to bring this together, and the fundraising is what they're doing already. They're doing all this fundraising for the trips, you know, the DECA that's going, you said $1,000.
I think Mr. Kiley at one of the last meetings said somewhere in the ballpark of there's about $250,000 worth of fundraising going on in the Dartmouth School District by PTOs, by the band boosters, by the athletic boosters, I guess, through all these different groups and volunteer groups. So I applaud you. I think we all applaud you, because we wouldn't be able to do a lot of what we do without the money that is privately raised through these parent groups in the Dartmouth Public Schools.
I want to speak to the economic question, because I have heard it a lot. If our per pupil number is 13,000 and change, and we're getting 5,000 per school choice student, who pays the difference? And the answer is not anywhere near what a lot of people would like. The average tax rate for families is about $3,700 in the town of Dartmouth. If they send 2 students to us from that household, we split that money in half with the town. That means families are giving us about $900 or $1,000 per kid for the 12 years that they're with us. The rest of the difference between that $1,000 and the $13,000 we spend is made up by taxes on businesses, by receipts from the state through grants and other funding, and by taxes that are paid by people in town who don't have children. We actually get more money from school choice students than we get from many of our own students. So the gap that exists is not made up from the backs of the people in the room that are here. It's mostly made up off the backs of people who are not in this room right now.
Thank you, Mr. Garth. So first of all, I would like to thank everyone in the audience tonight that spoke out, expressed their concerns. I understand, as Mr. Garth will tell you, 3 years ago, I was adamantly against school choice. I was like, there's no way I'm voting on school choice. We've never approved school choice in Dartmouth. And I said it's going to take a lot of convincing and a lot of research and facts to persuade me to consider voting for school choice. And with the help of the central office, having several conversations publicly as well as privately and one-on-one with Dr. Gifford, I came to the conclusion that let's give it a try. It cannot hurt with 30 students to give it a try. In my eyes, I think it was fairly successful based on everything that has taken place. I'll tell you right now, if we could come up with the money and another funding source in this town, I would vote no against school choice. But I'm kind of on the same page as my colleague, Dr. Jenkins, is that when I look at the budget requests not funded, it just really bothers me that the total amount of budget items that were requested by administrators in this district totaled $711,786. And those are all, for the most part, positions. I would love to be able to fund even half of those. We can't this year. We just can't do it. And it just seems like since I've been on here, this is the end of my 4th year, it's been the status quo every single year that we might be able to throw a position in here, put a position in there. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of legwork and back work that the administrators do in this district to provide data, to provide the facts, to back up their staffing requests to the central office. And it's not an easy task to show that, that school may need a reading coach or may need a math coach. There's a lot of data involved in that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I would say 75% of the time since I've been here, we've had to say no because we just don't have the funds. We're looking for alternative ways to make up the cost. And trust me when I say this is not on the backs of any students. It really is not. I'm the father of 2 students. Shannon's got, Dr. Jenkins has kids, Mr. Garth has kids, Dr. Karampotis has grandkids. Mr. Nunes has grandchildren. We're all vested in this. We do the best job we can with the information that we're given as well as from the public comment. And ultimately, we have to make a tough decision, and it's not going to be liked by everyone. One way or the other, you know, not everyone's going to be happy, typically with a lot of our decisions. That being said, I would like to defer to Dr. Gifford if I could.
Can I make one other point before you? Those budget requests that we're talking about, those are like, these are the things that I really, really, really need. If I said to Mr. Granville, what could you do with $500,000? I would imagine he could come up with pretty amazing things that could be done with our kids. So what we're talking about here is not like the whipped cream and the cherry on top. We're talking about we can't fund the meat and the potatoes. I want the meat and potatoes, and I want the cherry on top too, right? We're not gonna get there yet, but this is just the meat and potatoes, right? We're not talking about enrichment. We're not talking about maybe giving our high school students 20 more minutes of sleep, because we don't have the money to do that. We're not talking about STEM programs, language in the in the 6th grade, in the elementary schools. We can't even have those conversations because we can't even give them the things that they need. And so I want to be clear, think, oh, we're just going to come up with 700,000 and problem solved. That's just the tip of the iceberg that we can see above the surface right now. Sorry.
Absolutely. No, that's okay. I am going to defer to Dr. Gifford at this time because I know there was lots of comments and questions and concerns regarding school choice this previous year. So could you talk first about the posting process that we went through last year and how you think maybe we could tweak it a little bit for this upcoming year if we were to move forward with school choice?
Sure. So last year, and we'd probably do about the same thing this year, it was in the newspaper that we were taking school choice students, the number of slots. We posted it on our website, and that was pretty much, I don't think we had the Facebook at the time. I can't even remember now. So we would put it on Facebook as well for this year. And as you said, it was something folks didn't expect because Dartmouth had never accepted school choice before. So once folks started seeing it, that was when we got the calls for questions to our office and then the applications. So it does go in the newspaper, it goes on our website, and that's pretty much the way school districts do it.
Okay, because really, we can't be reaching out
No,
to
I'm not
other
going to
districts.
call another district and say, by the way,
Exactly.
send me you're tired, you're poor. You know, no.
There's also a database at the Department of Ed website that lists all the school choice schools.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have it right
So
here in
folks
front of me.
can research that if they're looking in an area.
I think also because that was the first year.
Right.
That was a difficult, but I think everybody probably knows about it.
Right, right.
Okay.
So as some people mentioned before, we accepted the applications until a certain date. We had the cutoff date, and at that point, we either had just the number or just under the number of students. So all of them were accepted. Then we were able to initiate another one. We took more applications, and at that point, you would then go into a lottery if you had more. You simply pull names. As time went on, some folks accepted, and then when we told them they were accepted, then they backed out. So it was a little bit of an ongoing process as applications came in, because, you know, granted, kids might think, oh my goodness, now I really don't want to leave my school. So that's how it went last year.
That was the selection process.
That's right, that's right. So,
What are you proposing, Dr. Gifford, for school choice this year? Because I know there was an article in the paper.
yeah, I was actually, and again, with the numbers that we have been looking at historically, we are still, the interesting thing is, even with the school choice numbers this year, we ended up having 25 freshmen came in and 5 sophomores. That was the applications we had. And to correct someone that may have been misinformed, the original vote was 30 students, 9th and 10th grade. You never stipulated 15 and 15.
We were hoping to
Right,
try to
right,
We
split
were
it
looking at
across.
maybe that
Right,
balance,
right.
but there was not a vote to take that, just so
Correct.
people are
I
clear.
don't even know if it's allowed legally to.
You can.
You can?
You
Okay.
can, you can. You might have, some folks do elementary level, where you know one group is very small, they might open 3 or 4 seats or something.
Okay.
So, but that's what it was. So we ended up with 25 freshmen and 5 sophomores. Even with the 25 additional freshmen, our class was down another 64 students coming in from 8th grade to 9th. So really, if we hadn't done the school choice, it would have been 89 students down from 8th to 9th grade than what, you know, the class size had. We're still down from the last few years, about 200, I think it was 29 students of what one of the high levels were years ago. some strange statistics of 11th to 12th grade of numbers leaving, 15 students, 18 students, 23 over the last 2 years. It's kind of interesting. So, you know, from a high, a number of years ago of about 356 students in the 9th grade, this year we had 269. So that's where we see the capacity. We do watch our class sizes, and yes, I will agree with the 9th grade, some of our class sizes get up there. What I'd like to say is, you know, 25 or so in some of the classes, is that as we accumulate, my hope, more school choice money in the revolving account, where we don't necessarily want to take salaries out of there, because again, it's a non-guaranteed revenue stream. Our hope would be, and which we're doing, and I'll fill you in a little bit for the new budget, be able to siphon money off the operating budget out of school choice to fund things that we can't, if we funded through the operating budget, would then not allow us to fund more personnel. So to be able to keep our eye on that science teacher we might need at the high school, which we would agree,
Right.
if we get the schedule shifted, to see how that works out and how we reallocate our personnel perhaps, and then go forward with that, that person. So just so you know also, you know, the vocational school, and I see the reason for it, folks leave, it's a whole different experience when they leave, if they're going into some kind of a trade or that kind of experience. So last year, we lost 274 students to voc, and this year was 316. It was a big increase. That's a lot of money going out of our town to voc, which then, of course, decreases the town's revenue overall, which then we get a smaller piece. So as the voc students go out, this, you know, school choice money is just another way to try to supplement that. So if we these 30 students continue to stay next year, that 150, we get that again. I'm not sure if folks know that as well. That's a reoccurring fund every year. And then the additional new students that come in, and I'm recommending 40 students this year. We have plenty of room in our 11th grade class. I was hoping maybe sprinkle 5 students or so in there. That's another, so if let's say it was 30, let's just say it was 30, that's another 150. 150 this year, that's 450 in 2 years. It's a lot of money that builds up in 2 to 3 years. So as I said, our thinking is to then, as we establish a good amount in that revolving account, to be able to fund things like we've kind of discussed, like an enhancement of our foreign language program, a learning foreign language lab at the elementary level perhaps, a Mac lab for animation and graphics. We've looked at some new technology Jonathan brought in. It's all 3D technology. So as the money starts to come in and we can see those bigger picture of things we'd like to spend the money on, that's, I'm not sure if I left something out that's pressing a question.
So what you're asking for us to consider are 40
I was.
additional students on
Correct.
top of the 30 that are already
Correct.
there, okay.
And so those
Dr.
ninth
Jen?
graders move on.
So I want to follow up, because people would ask, you know, why are we researching why students are leaving to voc? And I want to sort of explain a little bit about this, that because of the way state school funding is determined, they use a different formula for vocational schools that greatly benefits them. The average per pupil spending in voc was $18,579 in 2015. They get $6,000 more per student. In large part, most of that money is coming from the state. And there's a different formula for voc schools, and so we have an eye on it, but it's very difficult for us to compete sometimes. Of course, Peretti is asking us, he's gonna put a DEF grant in to buy software, right? If we had $6,000 more per student in our media classes, we could do a whole heck of a lot with that. And so we're doing the best we can to compete with other schools, but it's difficult when their school funding levels are just so different than ours.
Is there a way to, do we check with those students leaving the 8th grade and going to voc or going, well, I know for staying, they're going for other reasons, but, you know, to find out why their decisions are being made, and is there any way we can accommodate them at our own high school?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I
Yeah,
think that's a good question, that we,
Any kind
you
of
know,
exit survey
sure,
for the
yes.
students leaving 8th grade at Dartmouth Middle School, what's their main reason for going to
I'll check
somewhere?
with the middle school on what
I
they.
mean,
I would be
we
curious.
assume that there are some things that may not be true, and if we have the data to support that, it may give us some levers that we can pull to keep them.
And it's also a good way to look at our course of studies at the high school as well. Thank you, Dr. Gifford.
Okay.
Does anyone else have any comments, questions, concerns at this time about the school choice vote?
I want to commend everybody in the room. This is a hard conversation, and it was respectful, it was thoughtful, I understand the passion. I appreciate more than anything the willingness of most people, and all people in the room, to listen to all sides. It's not always easy to do.
Thank you, Mr. Garth. I'm just going to say that the 40 number, I'm a little wary about allowing 40 in. I think that's on the higher side.
my risk.
I kind of
I push the
like
envelope.
to go slow. I'm more, I would be more comfortable maybe splitting the difference.
Fine.
We're staying with 30.
Or stay with 30. What,
I was going to say, if the law allows us to target particular grades,
It does.
if it was 30 at the 9th grade and 10 at the 11th grade, I would be slightly more amenable to that.
Or 30 between 9 and 10 like we did.
Yeah, yeah.
thoughts?
That's what I was kind of thinking.
I think, yeah, I'm not comfortable with 40.
If I may, just procedurally, I think the right thing for us to do is to vote to participate or not, and then the superintendent comes back to us in a few weeks
Let you know what we're
with
getting.
numbers.
Correct.
Right, because I believe that's a decision that's in her office, not ours.
Correct.
John has a question.
Mr. Nunes?
That's all right. But do we have to put a cap on that motion? If we go to say we want to participate in school choice, do we have to say how many?
You choose the number of seats, the number, the.
In
the
this
to-
motion.
But not per grade.
Right, just
No,
the
no,
total
but
number.
The total number.
Correct.
But you need that tonight
And then we'll send in how many,
to go forward.
right.
We would give a sense of the committee, I think.
Yes.
About what we want.
Yes.
I agree, I'm not comfortable with 40.
Okay. I can't make a motion, so.
I know, I'm just trying to get a sense of, I'm not gonna look at you. I'm trying to get a sense of where everyone else is. 30?
30.
So
I'd say
I'll
somewhere
make a
between 20
motion
and
that the
40.
Dartmouth Public Schools participate in school choice next year, and we allow 30 additional students to enroll.
I second that.
So I have a motion on the floor by Dr. Jenkins, a second by Dr. Karafotis to allow 30 students next year into Dartmouth under the school choice program. Any discussion? Any further discussion? Roll call, Mrs. Boucher.
Mr. Nunes?
No.
Dr. Karafotis?
Yes.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Dr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Oliver?
Yes. Motion passes 4 with 1 no. I thank my colleagues for a very good discussion on that topic, and once again, I thank the audience for their comments and questions. Next up,
Our patient Potter people?
yes.
Very patient Potter people.
We'd like to invite the Potter Elementary School up for their Spotlight on Kids presentation.
I know, that's what I kept looking with, the little guys.
Not that we're pandering to the crowd, but there are some information on some of our slides about who's funding what, so. Thank you for this opportunity. This year, during our spotlight, we decided to focus on our efforts for STEAM education at Potter. So here we are, steaming into our future. STEAM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics. It's a nationwide initiative that creates critical thinkers, increases science literacy, and enables the next generation of innovators. It is a synergetic approach to teaching the STEAM disciplines instead of isolating them into separate schools of thought. At Potter School this year, we were able to create these blocks at the kindergarten through grade 2 level for 60 minutes per week, right into their schedule, and for grades 3 through 5 for 75 minutes into their weekly schedule. We piloted these enrichment blocks last year with our 5th grade. The 5th grade teachers opted to rotate the classes each week, focusing on extending the curriculum and offering students an extended block of time to solve more complex problems. The takeaway from that experience led us to create these blocks for each grade level. Students enjoy the change of pace and exposure to projects beyond the textbook. Teachers enjoy working with the students that are not in their homeroom, as well as watching the students grapple with real-world problems. This year, we were able to hire an instructional technology specialist full-time at Potter School, Miss Sandra Chica, and she's going to come up and tell us a little bit about how she brings STEM to life in her position.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm very pleased to be in front of you today. I'm very, very fortunate to be working at Potter School. It's amazing, amazing staff and administration. And it's March, and I'm still smiling, so. I do get to, just to give you a little bit of background on what we do, I do get to see the students K to 5, every single class, every single week. I know it was a little different from what has been in the past, so I do get to see them every week. I'm trying to think of the top of my head what we're doing. Kindergarten, we are doing a lot with iPads, doing a lot of apps, doing a lot of iPads. First grade, we getting to know the laptop, getting to know the keys, where the keys are, what we're doing. We just did a Microsoft Word, typing sentences, you know, something that's very simple to us, not to 6 and 7-year-olds. Typing up sentences, putting clip art in, putting pictures in, which is a 4-step process. Some of them. Grades 3 to 5, we are working with Google, the Google apps for education. All our teachers have Google Classrooms. All the students in 3 to 5 have logins. They utilize the classroom constantly. They are doing docs, slides. I'd love to see some more. Towards the end of the year, we're going to probably do forums, maybe Google Drawings. I skipped 2nd grade because that's what's on my, happens to be on my slide there. We did animations with the 2nd grade. We did do keyboarding because that was something, an essential skill that we thought we needed. But the bottom 2 are animations that we did with them, having them to understand how to get something to animate. They had, I believe, it gives them 72 frames, and they knew that every frame had to be slightly different to get the cars to move and the trees to grow. The top picture is a picture of the 2nd grade class. They were actually doing the word cloud, the adjective word cloud. 1 week I showed them the word cloud. They had to do adjectives about themselves. The 2nd week I changed it up and I had them do a round robin activity where they started at their own laptop, typed in their name, everybody shuffled to the right, write in an adjective about your student, about the student that's on the screen. When they were done, they had 10 friends had written 10 adjectives about them. Trying to think. We have been preparing for MCAS the past few weeks. We've been doing that as well with the 3 to 5. We're going to probably do some fun stuff towards the end of the year. We talked this morning with some of the 5th graders, hoping to do some green screen stuff. Book reports, not your average book reports. We're going to do hopefully some trailers, things like that. We just do a lot, so. One quick story just to close with the word cloud. They had, my example to them to how to do the word cloud was they had to give adjectives about me. That was interesting. It was brave. I kind of said it and I went, ooh, what are they going to say? But one of the ones that 2 stood out, the adjectives. One, that I was tall. Because I've always been short. But in perspective to them, I'm pretty tall, but that one just kind of made me chuckle that they said that. The other one, they said that I was happy. And that stuck with me because they do really perceive us and how our attitudes are. And So for them to say that Ms. Schick is happy is a good description of how I am being at Potter. So those two stuck with me. And now I'm going to pass it on to kindergarten.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
We love our Wednesday STEM block in kindergarten at Potter School. We've had a lot of fun this year. They really, really enjoy being on an adventure or the challenge before them. This year we introduced them to the basics of STEM. So we talked a lot about design, problem solving, testing their design, of course, retesting and redesigning. They're 5 and 6, so they do that a lot. It's fun to see that light bulb come on for them, for many of them. They're thinking about their thinking for the first time, so it's really fun to see that. On our slides here, we have on the top left, we made 3D haunted houses out of toothpicks and marshmallows at Halloween time. On the 100th day of school, we did cup stacking, 100 cups, and they were trying to make their towers more concrete at the bottom. Around the holidays, we did Polar Express ramp building, so we did inclined planes with them. They could use any flat surfaces in the classroom, and we had wooden trains, and they had to see how far that they could send their train. On the bottom, we've done other structures with marshmallows and different materials, and leaf hunting in the center. They have a blast with that, looking at all with the microscopes and magnifying glasses. And my personal favorite was the pumpkin volcano, which they just got so excited over. So we also have a STEM kindergarten family night coming up this Wednesday at 6 o'clock. We're really looking forward to having our families in and doing some fun activities with them. So thank you.
Thank you.
This will be a much happier topic for me to talk about. So in first grade, we're going to piggyback off kindergarten, and now we're going to help them problem solve the challenge that's in front of them. So not giving up, persevering, thinking what's another way I can accomplish this. So it's been wonderful addition to have STEM in our learning week. The children are very excited and eager for their new challenge for the week, and they are really anxious to talk about, this is what I want to do. Do you think it will work? And we say, well, try it. Let's find out.
We try to tie it into an academic or a thematic piece. So in the fall, we did a lot with nature and using what we find in nature and what we can build from nature. We went to Plymouth Plantation, and in one of the pictures at the top right, you can see the children. Their challenge was, if they were back at the time of the Pilgrims and they had to take a boat, how could they get their boat to float? So they did a floating activity. We used kind of like a sporadic one. When it snowed one day, we had them go outside. They got cups of snow. They had to see if they could create something from the snow and how long it would take before it melted on them. We've done lots of different things. The kids got a reward of a camp out day in first grade, so all the first grades did a big camp out theme. We got rid of our desks and we did stuff on the floor, and they had to make bird feeders using the materials in front of them. The challenge was, how do the birds feel in winter and what can we do to help them? And they had to use different supplies. And I happen to have twins in my room, and they used 2 different supplies, so they said, oh, when we go home we'll hang it up and we'll let you know which ones worked better when they want. And so they reported back in. We've done things with marshmallows and toothpicks. We've also done, in conjunction with Dr. Seuss, using that as one of our leap-offs, we did animal cages to go with his If I Ran the Zoo, and their challenge was to create an animal cage that we gave them this little mouse, which they thought was the best gift in the world, this little mouse, and they had to keep it in their cage, but also to not allow predators to get into their cage. So they had a dual STEM challenge. It's fun to see the ways in which they approach the problem, how they work it out, and a lot of them will ask questions, and we look at each other, we want to answer you, but I don't know, try it.
To see them accomplish their task and be very proud of themselves with their unique way of accomplishing this is amazing. Last week, they had to make a rainbow that had to attach to a pot of gold. And we just kept looking at one little boy because he went about this not any way that we were thinking, but it worked. And that's what we're trying to get these kiddos to do, is to get there. It doesn't matter how, as long as you get there, and that's what they're doing.
It's a great way of encouraging that perseverance. We have so many kiddos that want to just quit and give up, and we have to teach them that it's okay to not get it right the first time, and this is a great way to do that. Hand it over to second grade.
Second grade.
So in second grade, they have now been building in kindergarten, persevering in first grade, and now they are exploring a lot, and they're using a lot of teamwork and a lot of conversation building. They're working together a lot, and they're really up to the challenges as well. We too had a Snow Much Fun day. If it was snowing outside and we couldn't go out and play, we brought the snow in. And so they created lots of sculptures and tried to, they were up for the challenge of building with their snow. We have tied it into a lot of the academics, so we have done a lot of the science in our STEM. We have used the effects of wind with our STEM. How can we create things that will either float or not float, depending on what our challenge is. We have also been doing a lot of open-ended activities with flying tubes, with our reindeer flying tubes. They were given some tubes and they had to try to make them fly across the gym. That was quite entertaining. Garden projects, we have used the garden for some of our STEM activities. They had to cut open some pumpkins and then reconstruct the pumpkins. Glow-in-the-dark Play-Doh as part of our reward celebration, where they were using some glow-in-the-dark clay to, with some mixtures to make the glow-in-the-dark clay. They really come together a lot, and they really collaborate a lot on these projects. The same kind of trial and error has been happening in second grade, and it's been very tough to not step in and tell them what needs to happen. So it's amazing to see them really coming together to accomplish their task and to really think it through together and come up with solutions together. And that part is, I think, one of the most fun parts. Third grade.
I have to tell you, it's one of the best days of the week. Third grade has decided to rotate as well, and so we do our own class. It's Fridays for us, so we do our own class first on that given Friday, and then we kind of go clockwise. And it's just awesome. It is so great to see these children do these activities, and like Mrs. De Silva said, it's really hard to not jump in and say, oh, but wait, did you think of this? And I think doing our own classes first gives us that leeway to kind of test it out. What are we going to say? What are we not going to do again? And how we're going to do it. Teamwork is the best part of this. One of my particular lessons that I did first was about growth mindset. And I had a whole lesson all about it, and then did activities that incorporated the growth mindset theory. And just even now in March, they're still saying to each other, oh, but Mrs. Murphy said, you're not supposed to say it like that. And I'm like, yes. But a lot of these, they do get frustrated. And they are angry that it's not just an immediate answer. And so the teamwork piece to that, one of the top left one is the Martin Luther King experiment. I happen to love teaching about that. And so I brought into, because a lot of times we can't, it's not in the curriculum to exactly speak just about that one topic. So I brought it into STEM, and I brought in brown eggs and white eggs and had them crack them open, make their predictions first, and what did they think they were going to see that was the same and not the same. And all of a sudden, my favorite line from one student was, oh, now I get what she was saying. And I was like, oh, yay. The teamwork is the biggest one, though. I mean, the bottom left with our Russell Mills Schoolhouse, the kids had to work together to make the games actually work. Without each other, they couldn't. And the middle is the cup stacking, I believe. And one of the teachers did that one, and the kids could only use the certain supplies that were given, and they had to basically kind of stand off a little bit from it. The paper chains was one of the beginning ones that we had done, where you only got one piece of construction paper and they had to make the longest one, but it incorporated, a lot of different things. I mean, it incorporated math, they measured, they, did all these different activities with it. The Skittle one, I've been talking to Mrs. Brooks a lot about my Skittle one. I kind of liked it. It was really fun. But the kids did two aspects. You might not know this, but if you put Skittles in a cup, and you put the S's facing up, and you put warm water, the S's float to the top of the cup. Very cool. The other one that went with it was you put the Skittles all around on the outer side, the perimeter of the plate, and then put warm water in the center and cover them, and that's how they all are in awe just to do this. But it's funny, some of them chose to make a pattern around their plate. Some of them chose, no, let's try this. Let's see how this will work. Are they all going to turn to brown in the middle? So just their conversations and the things that they write down. I don't know what else. I can't see. Did I do it? Am I good? All right, so 4th grade, you're up. Thank you.
In 4th grade, we kind of have a few ways of attacking our STEM block. There are some periods of time where we might be doing one activity that takes place that day, and then we're finished with it and we move on. And then there are some other activities that we have that take about 5 or 6 weeks to bring from start to conclusion. One of the things that I've worked on with the kids a lot this year is something called Genius Hour. That's a time where students get that 1 hour a week, or it's actually a little over an hour a week, and they get to work on whatever they're passionate about. So they're doing research on topics that are of interest to them, rather than me just telling them, today we're going to learn about this, today we're going to learn about that topic. So I've had students choose things such as, I want to learn how to code, so I'm going to go on the computer and I'm going to research how to code and figure out how to do that. Other students might want to learn about a certain particular type of animal, for example. They all come up with some type of driving question. They research it. They research it over a few periods, so over several weeks, and then they decide how they want to present that. We present to our parents and families and our administration, and also to one another. And that's based on something that Google came up with several years back, which they called 20% time. They gave each of their employees a set period of time to work on whatever they're passionate about. And so the students really enjoy it because they like deciding what they're going to learn about.
While she was doing that with one class, I had the other class, and we were working on creating a city. And we tied it in with math, where they were geometrical shapes that they had to create, but then they all worked on one section of the city, and one of the slides that's up there is the entire class when they put their city together. And there were some things that were required that they included in their city, but then they got to take a second part of the city to create, like one student wanted to create a zoo, so they added a special part for a zoo. Somebody else wanted a baseball field, so they put that in there as well. One of the things that I wanted to say, though, is one of my students especially has trouble being part of the regular curriculum, but when we do the STEM activities, he can shine. That's his moment to be the expert at something, and people go to him. So that builds his self-confidence and everything. So I think that's an opportunity that he wouldn't have if we didn't have this part of our curriculum. And on to 5th grade.
Thank you.
Good evening, school committee, central office. Just kind of piggybacking first on what Marie Duggan just said about kind of leveling the playing field for those students who might not otherwise be academically inclined. This is their hour to shine. This is their hour to say, hey, these are my skills. This is what I've got. And they bring it week after week. And we're just very, very grateful for that. That, again, we level the playing field and all kids can be really successful.
Absolutely. And I'd like to say that this used to be a part of an after-school program that we did, and I love that it's been incorporated now. This is our second year making it a part of our school week so that all our kids can get to participate. I think of it as a kind of enrichment where kids get to rotate through our 3 classrooms and benefit. Anne is our, Earth Mother. So, the kids get to benefit from all of our experiences and all of our areas of expertise. And I just love that it's a part of our school week now, so that our STEM activities are enjoyed by all of our students. I think we can share a couple of the actual activities. I'm sure Anne wants to speak to her garden.
No, I just want to say that it gives students the opportunity to take incredibly complex concepts that are like gravity, buoyancy, photosynthesis, and really kind of explore them in the way that learning makes it so much easier for the children to access that information. And then they have true questions, not us just always giving them the answers and thinking there is a right answer. So that's been the whole theme throughout the evening. So
We've had some nice participation also with the community. I know in 2 of these activities that are pictured here, the buoyancy activity, the neutral buoyancy, and the recycled T-shirt, reusable bag activity, which was spotlighted here in the Dartmouth Week, the little local newspaper, so the kids were delighted about that. We had parent volunteers that came into the classroom to guide the kids through these activities, and we were so successful with them ourselves that we cycled it around the entire 5th grade.
Wonderful. Thank you, Heidi.
Yes, thank you.
Just before Sandra speaks, I'll just speak a little bit to some of the points that Maureen made, Mrs. Matzavinos made, about the fact that this really did start as an after-school program. Our teachers had their passions, and they explored them after school, and they had a great time. The kids enjoyed it, but one of the things we said is it's too bad not all of our students can have this opportunity. And that's when sort of the light went on and said, well, why can't they? So STEM doesn't take away from any academics, because as you have seen, it incorporates all of those academics. But the one thing I did tell the teachers, so here I go out on the limb, is I said, whatever you do in STEM, there can't be a test. And you have to share something you love with your students so that they see that passion. And I really think this year at K-5, our teachers have done exactly that, have given the students a concept or a challenge, and the students have taken off with it. And I think, it was one of those things, we're going to try it this year, and at the end of the year, you let me know if we want to do this again next year. And I think tonight you see the answer just by having so many of our staff members so passionate about this and coming out tonight. So the next portion, I'm going to invite Sandra Chicka back up. Thanks to a grant at the school department level, we have offered iSTEM not only at Potter School, but at all the elementary schools. And so Sandra's just going to tell you a little bit about our program. And I think just because we're the final school doing our spotlight, just know these activities are also happening in iSTEM at DeMello and Quinn.
Hello again. So I am one of the teaching coordinators for the iSTEM program. We started the iSTEM program in January when we came back from break. We had over 120 students register from Potter School, which is, I was just, overwhelmed trying to take on the registrations. I think Tracy sent the email out to the parents, and by close of school day, I had 5. So we had parents downloading the form, scanning it, sending it back, they really wanted their children to be in it. Because of the popularity of it, we are now running session 2 and 3. So we were able to accommodate many of those students that wanted to be part of the iSTEM. So right now we are running, this is week 2. We actually have one tomorrow morning and Wednesday morning. And I enjoy it because, again, I get to see all the students again. A little bit different. I run the K-2 session, and Kate Powers from Quinn runs the 3 to 5 session. So she does come over and help me out. We do try to run the same activities in the 3 elementary schools. One of the activities we did, and I didn't have a picture in here, and I didn't mention the last time, was that we do the code. We do the hour of code. So we did bring it back to the iSTEM, which was kind of cool. I did that with the kindergartners. We actually did what we call an unplugged code activity, where they have squares of paper, and they map it out. Green means go, orange is to turn, red is to stop. So they mapped it out, and then they were able to do 2 other coding apps that we have on the iPads. They were my guinea pigs, and I got to get some feedback from them on which ones were the better, because there are a lot out there, and actually some students really enjoyed one and some didn't. So I like to get their feedback. These pictures here, the top left is a paper chain challenge, which somebody mentioned before. I'm sorry, I forgot who it was. We did do the paper chain challenge. We actually did that the last week of session 1, and we did it the first week of session 2 and 3, and the kids couldn't wait to see what we're doing this week. The paper chain challenge is just a piece of construction paper. Make the longest chain that you can with a piece of construction paper and some tape. We had creative ones. We did have some students who said they did it, but I encouraged them to try something different. So if you've done it before, maybe you can try something different. And they loved it. They came up to me after in class and said, "That was great, Ms. Chica, what are we doing next week?" And like, we didn't even do anything technical. We just had a piece of paper. So I don't know, I better top that tomorrow. The thing you see attached to the bookcase, because we are in the library, is a roller coaster type thing. He's putting a marble in at the top, and they are making it go down. Actually, it extends after him and hits the floor. I did not tell them they could or could not use the bookcase, and they did. That is painter's tape, so that did come right off. They very minimal directions that we give them. Here's a piece of construction paper, make a paper chain. Here's I think that's piping cut in half. Here's a marble, get the marble, get some jumps in, and they attached it to the bookcase. It's very, very creative. They know it's trial and error. They know they work together well. The bottom is our Lego kits, our Bluetooth Lego kits. They follow the directions to put the boat or whatever it was together. I can't remember what that one was. And they then use the Chromebooks to code it and make it move. So they really, really, really enjoyed that. I mean, they're not STEMmed out. They have STEM every week. They're fighting for slots, not fighting, but they want slots in the iSTEM, so they are not STEMmed out. They love it, even if we do something that's already been done. Tomorrow, I think we are building with straws and Play-Doh and toothpicks, and one group's gonna get cups and one group's gonna get playing cards. So, and I know like they've done the cups thing, and they don't say, nobody says they're bored. Nobody says, we did this already, I don't wanna do this. They all do it, they all participate, and they seem like they have a good time, and they're learning, and they're working together. Most of the stuff is group work, and they enjoy it. I'm glad that we're able to give all the kids that opportunity that wanted to do it. So I'm going to hand it back to Heidi.
Thank you.
So I do want to thank Tracy Oliveira for securing the grant and also for supporting the iSTEM teachers. That fancy Lego kit was something else she funded. That will remain at our building, I believe. I'm going to go ahead to now the STEAM Museum. Kind of knowing that we were going to do some STEM this year, I secured through Mobile Ed Productions. They transformed our gymnasium into a state-of-the-art, hands-on children's museum with something for all grade levels and interests. This K-5 experience was generously funded by the Potter School PTO. Students were encouraged to explore the museum at their own pace and manage their time between stations, which appealed to their individual talents. These included the hands-on stations of the Build the Arc, and these are all pictured up here, the Parabolic Arch, the Friction Raceway, the Bicycle Generator, the Structure Exploration, and several programmable robots, as well as an interactive humanoid robot, and to view a 3D printer in action. So this was just a great day at Potter School, and all our K-5 students went through this, so it was fabulous. The arts, the A in STEAM, we would not be able to do just STEM without incorporating our love of music and the arts. Seth Rainville at the top kicked off our pottery unit at a school-wide assembly, mixing in a bit of history along with a demonstration on his pottery wheel. He then donated 2 weeks of his time to visit each art class twice. Students learned that pottery needs to be scratched and attached in order for it to stay together as it dries. They also learned about the glazing process and the chemistry behind it. Our students then became potters themselves by creating a piece of pottery, and the PTO generously funded the supplies for this endeavor. And tonight, I have a little display, and we have some of our pottery. There'll also be more at the art show at the high school, and there's some other pieces as well. The lower side of the slide is another unique partnership, is that of the New Bedford Symphony Orchestra's education extension to our 5th grade. The NBSO Education Director, Terry Wolkowitz, created a masterpiece of collaboration to benefit our students. The theme of gravity in space and sound is a 3-phase learning in concert program. Members of the New Bedford Symphony Orchestra provided an on-site concert for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. This performance introduced our students to the various degrees of gravitational force through harmonic cycles and melodies. During the 2nd phase of their relationship, Mrs. Wolkowitz returned to Potter School to work with our 5th graders. During her time in their classroom, she continued the work of gravitational influences on music by having students compose their own pieces. Mrs. Wolkowitz is expanding her relationship with our teachers by offering STEAM training during our PD sessions. And this culminating relationship was the attendance of our 5th graders at the New Bedford Symphony Orchestra's Young People Concert, where they heard compositions of orbital progressions performed by New Bedford Symphony Orchestra, and Potter School's participation in this experience was funded by the Dartmouth Cultural Council. On this slide, Josh Burton, one of our students, was selected, and his piece was performed by the NBSO. We've had a lot of technical difficulties with this one. Thank you. Thank you, Josh. Next, with math, focusing on math. This year, as sort of a challenge to our district, was to get more involved with junior achievement. Junior Achievement's purpose is to inspire and prepare young people to succeed in a global economy. Jay is dedicated to giving young people the knowledge and skills they need to own their own economic success, plan for their futures, and make smart academic and economic choices. The core of JA's programs focus on work readiness, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy, making the realities of work and life in the 21st century. This is just an overview of the program K, which starts with ourselves, through 5th grade, which goes on to our nation. The JA facilitators, our instructors, were all from the business sect and volunteered their time and worked for their units through our entire program, and we're hoping that they will collaborate year after year so that our students progress and are far more financially literate than I. And now, Mr. Porter.
So as you can see, we've been very excited by our STEAM activities, and we just like to take our show on the road, and we did that in December. Barnes & Noble has always been very supportive of us. As many of you may or may not know, our library is self-sufficient, so we have to look for funds elsewhere to fund our library. And we typically partner with Barnes & Noble to help us with that, and we get a proceed of the percentage of the sales they do on a certain night. But this year they did a very big Harry Potter night, which required more than just Mrs. Brooks and I showing up. And as you can see tonight, with all our staff members here on Friday, December 9th, over 30 staff members, plus some spouses, showed up on a Friday to help organize this event. And it really was, with a Harry Potter theme, STEAM centered. We had children had the chance to make wands, and they were given a variety of branches, and how do they want to make their wand look. But they also had a chance to make potions using common household items, and how do they want to see the potions, overflow, and they had to experiment that way there. So it was an amazing evening, and it also netted over $1,000 for our school library. But we're not just about, you want to do the, you got to do, here we go. But we're not just about STEAM. We're also about giving back, and this just, as timing has it, this past weekend, we were honored to have a Potter School team at the first annual New Bedford Polar Plunge, which benefited Special Olympics. One of our 5th graders, Emma Carrier, and her dad, who's our 3rd grade co-teacher, Darren Florent, challenged us to put a team together to raise money for Special Olympics. Our team goal was $500. In the end, our team raised $1,126, earning us the top K-12 school. And as you can see from the pictures, Mrs. Brooks and I, along with several of our students, did participate in this event. And yes, it was March, but it was cold. And I do want to say that's Mr. Florent in that picture. That is not me. So, thank you all very much. And if you have any questions, Mrs. Brooks and I will.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions from my colleagues? Dr. Kay.
Oh, I thought it was wonderful. First of all, I appreciated the enthusiasm of your staff and both of you, and the creative leadership to take a program that was an after-school program and then incorporate it into each day, each week of so all students have an opportunity. And the skills you're teaching them are the skills of the 21st century, the problem solving, the predictions, the perseverance, the teamwork. Those are the skills our students need in the future. They're not going to be working by themselves at a desk. They're going to be working with other people. And I'd just like to talk for just a moment about your instructional technology specialist. May I ask you how long you've had to wait for that position?
This would be year 3.
Excuse me?
This was our 3rd year of request, actually. I want to say it's possibly more than that.
Yeah, probably.
We had a part-time, and this was our first securing of a full-time position.
This is an
in a
excellent
21st century.
Yes.
But this is an excellent example of what Dr. Jenkins is talking about. If we could have had that in the school 4 or 5 years ago, what about the hundreds of students who would have had this experience that didn't, including one of my granddaughters?
Exactly.
So people have to realize when we don't fund a position, there's a vacancy, there's a vacuum. There's something that kids could be experiencing that they're not experiencing. And I thought that brought it home. And one of the positions we are funding next year would be to have a technology specialist at the middle school to keep this going. So congratulations to you and your staff and all the parents that work to support the program. I thought it was phenomenal. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kay. Anyone else? I'll just echo Dr. Kay's thoughts. Wonderful programs at each grade level. I'm thrilled to see, you brought some of your artwork here this evening. The iSTEM program after school. You're just doing some really great stuff, and I do know that my daughter will truly miss Potter School as she graduates 5th grade this year, and the wonderful experiences she's had from all of you teachers in the audience. So I'll be sad to see her go there, leave, but continue doing the wonderful work, and especially, like Dr. Kay said, with your instructional technology specialist. Good stuff's coming down the road. More good stuff's coming down the road.
More good. Absolutely. We created the opening, and our teachers really ran with this ball for STEM, and everything that you see is their creativity. So
Awesome.
we love them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, I'm going to turn it over to our student rep for an update of the happenings at the high school. Stacy.
Okay, I'll try to keep this very brief. First, on March 17th, which was last week, the Mr. Dartmouth contest was held, and I wanted to congratulate Anthony Lee for winning Mr. Dartmouth. There was a great turnout. Almost every seat was filled in the audience, so that was really exciting. It was a great fundraiser for the junior class. This past week was the spring sports team's tryouts, so I want to congratulate everyone who tried out for a spring sports team. And then lastly, tomorrow is the last day to support the National Honor Society at Not Your Average Joe's, and you just have to say, hey, I'm supporting the National Honor Society, and they will donate a portion of the proceeds to our international charity. That's about it.
Perfect. Can that be takeout as well, or do you know?
Yeah, it can be takeout as well.
Perfect. Thank you for the update.
No problem.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I know it's around this time that Stacy was supposed to, has Stacy heard from any of the colleges?
Oh,
that she
absolutely.
I heard from Georgetown today. I got accepted to Georgetown.
Congratulations.
That was my top school. That was my dream school, so I'm really excited.
Cool.
Should have shared that right up front.
I'm hearing from more this week,
Boyer
but
Saxon.
that was definitely one of my tops.
Excellent.
It's exciting.
Congratulations. Next up, under old business, FY18 budget vote. I believe the last meeting that I was not present at, you had the public hearing on the budget, and there was discussion that ensued or after the public hearing. I'll turn it over to any of my colleagues for any more comments, questions regarding the FY18 budget.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I think we've had this conversation now for the better part of the month of March, and I am pleased to report that I think it's starting to show up in other places in the community, the understanding of the seriousness of the financial issues.
Okay.
And I have confidence that going forward, there's a brighter future, ahead of us, because I think there's an awareness that's not been there for a while.
Okay. Well, it's very positive. Anything else you need to update us to? Any last-minute developments on the budget?
Really just, we've continued to work with the town side of government on this budget. I think I had mentioned at the last school committee meeting after the public hearing that, we did have a deficit from where the town had us. And I'm hopeful that at the joint meeting coming up, we'll get some good news and we'll be very close to where we need to be for the budget. So
Okay.
I feel pretty positive about it at the moment.
Great.
So.
Thank you, Mr. Kiley. Anything else? We can,
Do you have any comments?
Well, earlier, Mr. Kiley was going to mention something else. I thought that had to do.
That was
No,
the
it's
capital.
CIP.
That was the
that'll be
capital.
next, the CIP. Yes.
So I'll make a motion to approve the FY18 budget appropriation for the high school secretaries in the amount of $153,831.05.
Second?
I have a motion by Dr. Jenkins, a second by Mr. Garth. On the motion, any discussion? Need to be a roll call? Roll call on the budget? No. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I'll abstain, Mr. Chairman.
Motion passes 4-0 with one abstention.
So I'll make a motion to approve the FY18 budget appropriation for the Potter School classroom teachers in the amount of $1,534,536.
Second?
I have a motion by Dr. Jenkins, a second by Mr. Garth. On the motion, any discussion? Chair hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I will abstain. Motion passes 4-0 with one abstention.
I will make the motion to approve the FY18 budget appropriation for the total budget, including those items voted, excluding those items voted individually in the two previous motions in the amount of $40,227,238.95.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Jenkins, a second by Mr. Garth. On the motion, any further discussion? Chair hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I would like to thank my committee members as well as central admin, especially Mr. Kiley for all his work in the budget development and process, and as well as all the administrators in the room for all their hard work in putting this, helping to put this budget together and make those recommendations. And I'm hoping that one year or another, we will be able to fund a lot of these. So-
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may, just a thought. There's more uncertainty in this budget probably than there has been in many years because of what's happening at the federal and state level.
Mm-hmm.
Could we maybe outline what our process would be should there be substantive changes? Would we have to come back and redo the whole budget? Would we be able to approve some changes on a case-by-case basis as they come? I think, having that conversation just, sort of off the cuff right now might be better served if we have to face that, whether there's a healthcare, input or something like that.
Sure. Mr. Kiley?
I'd be happy to speak to that. So the committee has the ability to change this vote at any time prior to town meeting. So, and even at town meeting, I suppose it's possible, through the town meeting process that day. So you're right. There is certainly a fair amount of controversy in terms of how education will be funded at the federal level, and obviously, the state gets quite a bit of funding from the federal government. We get some funding directly through grants from the federal government, and other sources, including Medicaid, that the town gets. So any cuts would essentially be, we would bear 70% of the burden of any cut in federal funding that flowed from the feds into the state and then down to us. So it's not insignificant, and we get millions of dollars that way. So 70% of several $1 million would be potentially disastrous if it all went away. We don't expect that will be the case, but there are programs that rely on that and would be a serious issue for us. So as we know more, we'll work with the town side of government, and as they get better estimates, our state legislators are working right now on their budget proposal. We have the governor's budget, and they're working hard to try and bridge any gaps, but they're working with the same uncertainty that we are. So they're at that disadvantage as well. But as it flows down, we can revise this at any time. And to do that, I would suggest that it has to go well beyond this committee, and it has to come back in-house to our principals and our team to look at ways that we might, address any shortfalls that we'd have, or request additional funding.
Through any number of
About
means.
overrides, so I could bring that up.
Thank you, Mr. Kiley.
Okay, I'm good. Yep.
Continuation of the CIP update. I know I had cut you off, so if you just want to finish that up.
Very briefly, just the facilities master plan. We have more than 40 applications out for the facilities master plan with architects at this point.
Excellent.
It closes Friday. We're very excited to start getting a chance to look at those and work through those, and we have our designer selection team that will be evaluating those applications and ultimately interviewing people. And at some point, the second meeting in April, our goal is to have designer available for you folks to consider. So, and a
Okay.
recommendation in place. So we're excited about it. It's much needed. So.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kiley. Next up, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Roy for School Committee Policy KHB.
So before you tonight for a second reading and vote is the advertising and school policies. Since our last meeting, there have been no changes to the actual policy, but based on your recommendations, the subcommittee made 2 changes to the procedural guidelines referenced in the policy. So included, I gave you the additional handout. Included in the bulleted part on the bottom section in that first, the second bulleted. At your request, we added the drugs component as a, to avoid partnering with any companies that promoted this. And the very last paragraph, we reversed the order, placing the building administrator sentence first and the superintendent sentence second. So those changes were made at your request to the procedural guidelines. No actual changes were made to the first read on the policy.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve policy KHB.
I second that.
Motion by Mr. Moon, second by Dr. Kara Fotis. On the motion, any discussion? Chair hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And next up, we have the 2017-2018 school calendar. In your packet, you should have received two scenarios. And Dr. Gifford would be more than happy, I'm sure, to explain the difference between the two if you are not sure. But what are the big caveats between the two?
Based on your vote last week, the last meeting to waive the current policy, which stipulates the starting day is a Tuesday, we've given you two scenarios. One would bring the teachers in on the Monday, the 28th and 29th, followed by the students on the 30th, and the other one would skip the Monday and bring teachers in on the 29th, 30th, and students starting on the 31st. So there's only 1 day difference. I also thought it was good timing. One of the superintendents on the listserv put out a survey on Good Friday again, so just to give you the responses that just came to me. 64 responses of area superintendents, and 5 systems have a full day of school, and folks expressed concerns about the staff-student absenteeism on those days. 6 systems had an early release, and 53 systems have no school. So you've asked that question a couple of times. So that's what you have to vote on tonight, is just a day difference, really.
Okay. Comments? Yes, Dr. Jenkins.
All right, so I know everyone's going to kill me that I'm bringing this up now. But I was looking at the beginning of the school year, and I've noticed we do this, I think, this year, and we're doing this calendar year, next calendar year, where we come back on January 2nd, which always strikes me as hard, because everyone's up really late on the 1st, right? New Year's Eve, right? And then it's kind of, you have the 1st, people may be away, they're traveling after they've been up late. I don't know if it's possible if we took the earlier date to keep that end date the same and put that day in on the, so we would come back on the 3rd. I just find that people are really out of sorts on January 2nd, because everyone's been up late the night before. I don't know, maybe I'm hallucinating, and it's probably not happening in Cushman. All those kids are in bed, right? But when you get up into like 5th, 6th grade, right, the kids are starting to stay up later, and I know my kids are a disaster on the 1st, and so by the 2nd, they're not quite fully recovered. I don't know. Maybe we don't want to touch that because it's just too late in the game, but I just thought I'd throw it out
I
there.
understand your rationale behind that, and it's really not a bad idea.
Right, to take the earlier date and keep the end date the same and make that put
I
that one
think
day in there.
Dr. Jenkins' family, they're party people.
I think, yeah.
So start on the
No,
Monday.
I'm not a party person, so when I stay up till midnight, I'm a train wreck. That's my problem.
Yeah. Start on the Monday,
Young anymore.
return on the 3rd, and just shift as appropriate.
Yeah.
Comments? Mr. Goth's giving you a look.
Staff would love it.
Yeah, I think you all know where I'm going with this one. I still think that we need to explore the Jewish holidays. I've made the case before. To me, it's the only way to avoid what is a pretty obvious equity issue. I have spoken, to some people in town, and it does matter to some people more than I think. It certainly does not matter to a very large group of people, but it does matter. We have already adjusted, if we accept Plan B, the calendar by 1 day, and by offsetting it with the 22nd of September, we'd be at the same net schedule as we were last year in terms of days before January 1 and days after. And then to the point that it's one holiday this year, but 2 holidays next year, there is a real possibility we're losing intercession day next year, or the need for intercession day next year. And so the schedule would be able to accommodate both this year and next, both of the Jewish holidays without a significant impact. And I would be sort of hard-pressed, with all due respect to what I think is a rational thought. I had a thought after the Patriots won in overtime that Dr. Gifford perhaps should have had a late start to school the next day, so I'm sensitive to the impact of staying late. I have a difficult time saying we're going to push the holiday back because of too much celebrating on New Year's Eve, but we're not going to have equity for all of our students.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I've spoken on this before, and, you know, I think one of the things that we do to be sensitive to students of the other faith, and that is, you know, there's a schedule that goes out to the faculty and staff and such, as please not schedule exams on these days and such, because there's a possibility that there are going to be students out. And, you know, I mean, and there are some that are there, and there are some that aren't, and I totally understand that, you know, I mean, I just wonder, in all seriousness, if you start getting into this, do you start having ramifications with after-school programs, whether it be sporting activities, band competitions, you know, club, you know, drama, you know, deck, or things of that nature? Does it get in, are we gonna get into the weeds?
Sure.
And that's a concern.
Dr. Jenkins.
Yeah, I mean, I have concerns. I mean, personally, I think I would go the other way. Mr. Garth has indicated he's not willing to do that. I think you either have to have none, or you should have them all. And then we open the door of, well, what other religious faiths do we have to accommodate with days off? Because, you know, if the principle is, well, it's a minority, it's a minority being affected for other religious holidays. You know, I know. So I would, rather than giving more days off, I would give fewer. I know we have a problem on Good Friday, that if we did that, we would have very high absentee rates. And so I think this is a good, it's not the best compromise, but it is the compromise that we have and that's worked for us. And so, you know, I think we need to keep it, because otherwise we need to start looking at a lot of other days that we need to give.
I agree, Dr. Jenkins. I think we have 2 calendars in front of us. I personally, I think we should just pick one of them. You know, I appreciate your idea with the January 2nd. However, that being said, I think being, you know, going into April at this point in time, I think we should just pick one of these 2 schedules that Dr. Gifford, or calendars that Dr. Gifford has presented us with, and go from there. So we have a choice of, and I'll entertain a motion either way.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we go with the school calendar with the pre-session day for elementary and middle school staff being Tuesday, August 29th, Thursday, the teacher orientation day, and August 31st, 2017 being the first day of school.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Well, so I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, a second by Dr. Karafotis. Discussion?
Regardless of the other issues, I don't think it makes sense to start anything on a Tuesday. There's nothing else that I know of in life that starts on a Tuesday.
Okay.
Well, I liked Dr. Jenkins' idea, mainly because I think I'd like the Christmas time. It's such a hectic time to have that little extra day. But that's me. I don't know.
That's fine. Stacy?
I was just gonna say, like, as a student, I feel like I'd rather, like, start on the Wednesday than the Thursday, because, like, you have those, like, 2 days, Thursday and Friday. It's basically you're just getting your syllabus, and then you're back to Labor Day weekend again. I feel like I'd just rather have a longer week, get some work done, and then come back. Plus, if there's snow days like there were this year.
Just the other point is not knowing how the schedule may or may not change. It's possible at some point, if you have a 2-day week, then some classes in some parts of our district wouldn't even meet that first week. So I think to ensure that they all meet, you would have to start at least on the Wednesday.
You lost me.
Well, but let's not go too much further, just
Yeah,
say that it's a possibility.
That's fine. Anyone else? So we're voting on, can you read your motion again, please,
Yeah,
Mr.
no,
Nunes?
it's the,
Call it version A. It was the first
however you want to call it.
Starting on the
It's
Tuesday.
Starting on Tuesday, August 29th, which is the pre-session day for elementary and middle school, August 30th for the teacher orientation, all staff, and Thursday, August 31st for all students.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. No more discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 3-2.
Excuse me, could I just ask, Chris, are you opposing it because the Jewish holidays aren't in it?
Well, I do think there's an equity issue, and with all due respect, if we're talking about adding days for the Christmas holiday, but not even considering taking days for another faith, I think there's a serious
Well,
equity
it's not the
issue.
Christmas holiday, I was the, you know,
But I
but
thought.
it's because of the Jewish holidays that you're not voting for.
No, I'm not voting because I thought we had made an effort last week to help the superintendent by starting school on the Monday. Yeah. And my understanding is that was somewhat her wish, but I understand the two of you weren't at that meeting, so you were not privy to
well,
that
there you go.
conversation.
Well, I wish someone
Well,
had
I
told me.
wish that would have been explained.
Dr. Gifford, you wanted the Monday start?
When it was brought up, we just thought that would be a better way to go. And listening
call
to
for a
Stacy too.
Motion to
Someone who has-
reconsider.
Someone who
Okay.
has voted in the affirmative.
Get the
Chris
whole
and I may
week.
not, but someone who has voted in the affirmative may make a motion to reconsider.
I can't, though, because I'm the chair.
I'm looking at Carol.
I made the original motion.
Okay, all right, well, could we revote
You
to
need to make a
reconsider?
motion to reconsider.
Could we make a motion to reconsider?
I will second
last
the
vote.
motion to reconsider.
So we have a motion and a second to reconsider. And we're going to take a vote.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-1.
I will make a motion to approve the calendar that starts on Monday. All right, per the superintendent's request, exactly how it was presented to us.
I will second that motion.
So we have a motion by Dr. Jenkins, a second by Mr. Garth. On the motion, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 4-1
It's late.
for us to
It's getting
start
late.
on the 28th.
Very late.
My apologies for that, folks.
I stick to my guns, you know?
That's what happens
Nothing
when you
wrong
miss
with
a
that, Mr.
meeting.
Nunes. Nothing wrong with that.
All right, under new business, we already took care of the vote to participate in school choice. School committee policy, social media, first reading.
So before you, you have the work of the technology subcommittee and their presentation of the social media policy. Mr. Galasha is here to brief you on the process and answer any questions.
Perfect.
The first read.
Good evening, Mr. Galashaw. How are you?
Very good, thank you. The social media policy before you is a process of a two-year process. The Technology Committee reviewed this 3 times over the course of 2 years, stemming from an original social media policy that was suggested by the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. We had had that one in place. We wanted to revise it and update it. We wrote a very extensive, probably our peak was to get about a 3-page policy, and we realized that we were really heading in the world of guidelines and getting specifics. So we brought it to its core. Mr. Rossi is on the committee as well as other members of other principals and specialists throughout the district. We felt the policy would best be suited to, at its core, to describe it as it's a disruption to the educational process, then it's a problem here at Dartmouth. So with that, the social media policy is before you in its simplest form. We also have guidelines that we will have that will evolve continuously over the years because it will suggest references to more current media, more current use of technology because it changes so rapidly. And that way the policy at its core can be before you and stay in place within the district.
I think you've hit it right on the head, you know, Mr. Galashaw. I think, yeah, there's no way to predict what the technology rules of etiquette are going to be next week, never mind next year. I think having language that defines what exactly our goals and objectives are gives the superintendent the kind of latitude to be able to make decisions that are more timely and appropriate.
And that was a redirection by Ms. Roy, reminding me of what a policy is and what a guideline is. So, and of course, the tech committee crafting that. So we've done both. We've done the hard work of the guidelines, but we've also cut it to its core.
Mr. Galashaw, when you refer to users, who are the users? Who are you referring to? Are you referring to?
Everyone within the Dartmouth school community.
So you're referring to both staff, faculty, and students?
Correct.
And us, I
All
would think.
members of the Dartmouth
course.
Public Schools, all people within our realm. All.
Okay.
If you're using our
That's what I thought.
facilities.
I just wanted to clarify users as to it was both students and staff.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the only question I have. I think it's very well done. It's broad enough, you know, so we can grow with it a little bit.
Right.
I don't have any concerns moving.
And very positive and supportive and positive.
Right.
As well as,
Absolutely. Any other comments, questions?
Motion to approve?
This is the first reading?
First reading.
First reading.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Galashaw. 2017 summer sports camps. Mr. Kiley.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver. So I'm going to just advocate for an approval of the plan for the summer sports camp. We are talking about 5 weeks, beginning the last week in June, June 26th. The activities would include baseball, field hockey, basketball, tennis, football, lacrosse, volleyball, soccer, track and field. We had 175 students attend last year. It was very successful. The fee is $80 per week. The one change that is proposed for the program is for a multi-week discount. So if people sign up for 4 weeks, they get the 5th week free. So we're hopeful that that actually is going to increase enrollment in the program.
Perfect.
What are the times of the program? Is it a half day?
It's half day, yeah, yeah.
One of the concerns that was bubbling through the community was the availability of nursing services during these camps. What would the per-week cost look like? And is it possible that the cost to have a nurse on staff would generate enough additional registrations that it would pay for itself? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
I would say that it's unlikely that it would cover the cost. I'll just do a little quick math, but let's say. If enrollment was level, then you would need to come up with approximately would be about $32 a student
More.
Now, the teachers.
each week.
The people who are running the camp, do they have first aid training?
Yes. And they are generally, mostly our staff. A lot of our phys ed instructors or coaching staff who have been trained participate in the program, so.
I believe the concern was about administering certain medications and things like that, which they're probably not qualified to do.
No, they would not be.
Okay, well, something to maybe think about.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kiley, are these going to be held at the middle school, or are they going to be at the high school?
They're actually going to be at the high school. We had originally decided that they were going to be at the high school because of the roof project at the middle school. Now, it seems unlikely that that's going to actually happen, but we're going to keep it at the high school. In the event that we decide through this process that we're actually going to do some work at the middle school, we can't have the kids on site.
Sure.
Even if it was just some preliminary work, masonry work and things like that, so.
My one question, thank you.
You're welcome. Entertain a motion at this time?
Motion to approve the 2017 summer sports camp as presented?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Nunes, second by Mr. Garth on the motion. Any discussion? Chair hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kiley. Superintendent's update, Dr. Gifford.
Okay, very quickly, I'm going to eliminate a lot of things, but just to call to your attention, as a reminder, we had a Youth and Government Conference. We had 7 students attend this year. Governor Baker was there, and I guess it was our largest group that attended. And we had students chosen to serve as justice in the judicial branch and on the committee, chair for legislative committee session. So it was the first time we've had some students chosen to serve in leadership positions, so that was exciting.
Excellent.
The Dartmouth Pride brick is back. So folks that want to purchase a brick, last year we had 128 bricks placed outside the high school, you can pick up applications at either our building or any of the schools, or just call. So the cost of the bricks is $50 each, and the deadline to order is April 28th. So get going. Let's see. I'm not going to mention we have a lot of summer stuff also, but too late now. Tomorrow night, we have our informational night for our comprehensive emergency management plan. So a number of us will be there to present just some of the key highlights of what changes took place when we created that plan, what practices or drills folks have been through. Our police department will be there as well to assist us in that. So that's 6 to 8 or so at the middle school tomorrow night. And let's see, other than that, the last thing I'm going to mention is, as I updated you via email, we are coming to conclusion for our high school principal search. And on Wednesday, our final 2 candidates will be touring the high school. And the admin team, Mike's here now, has planned a couple of visits with different people and some students for those 2 candidates. They are Ross Tebow, who is currently a principal in Oxford, and Michael Parker, who is an assistant principal at Old Rochester. So it was a real thorough process. We had a great team that worked through the candidates, sent me 3 candidates. I then met with each of them for at least an hour. Ms. Roy and I visited all of their schools, had focus group meetings, toured their buildings. Just we, conducted tons of reference checks. So we feel confident right now in the 2 finalists that we've chosen, and we'll see where Wednesday leads.
So they'll both be on site on Wednesday? Is that what
Yeah,
you
we're
said?
splitting the day.
And will they have an opportunity to speak with staff, or?
They're going to tour the building, so
Yep.
pop in classes. Staff know they're coming. They can.
So staff do know they're coming,
Yep,
and they will
yep,
have the
a
opportunity
a memo has
to
gone
meet
out.
them if they have, the availability to.
Yeah. They'll be meeting specifically, a specific meeting with the leadership of the ILT, the teacher leader group.
Okay.
And the directors, and of course, the admin team, a student group, of mixed students. And I
with the student
believe
group.
they're going to get to hang out in the lunchroom to chat, and again, if folks wanted to come up and say something, but they'll also have tour and popping in and out of classrooms. so.
Excellent. Now, just a quick question. If teachers, would like to provide or staff at all at the high school would like to provide some kind of feedback on their interactions with the 2 finalists, either positive or negative, who should they reach out to? Would it be to Mr. Martin, or would it be to?
We're going to have something available, some kind of either a paper form or
Evaluation.
probably a paper form, and they can just, something, kind of based on, because we asked also previously, we received survey data from staff based on a number of different traits and characteristics about leadership, et cetera, of what they really thought was important. That was all put together for the interview committee to see. So we asked them, and also we had actually feedback from a student group as well of what they were looking for in a principal. So the screening committee was able to look at that as they considered the candidates through, as they interviewed them. So I think we're continuing to sift through that different kind of feedback that we have. I have to say, one of the things that stood out very significantly for us as we worked through this process was both candidates are extremely student-centered. And from all the feedback we've gotten, the visit we had, so we'll see where that goes.
Okay. Thank you very much,
All
Dr.
right.
Gifford. And thank you to the advisory committee for pushing forward, doing all the legwork and screening out the applications
Right.
and interviewing the applicants.
It's a challenge, but it's an opportunity.
Absolutely.
Can I just ask a brief question? I'm on the website. Is the brick flyer on the website? for
It
the
will be.
bricks?
It isn't
Okay,
right now.
great,
On the high
great.
school website.
Is it
Is it
on
on the
one
high
of
school
them?
website?
It was on the high, I saw it on the high school website
Right.
today.
And, you know, I don't know if it's been on Facebook already. I think it has. and
Okay.
So it's out there.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
How's that new website coming?
It is.
Are we going to be ready to go
We're-
for this summer?
We're planning on our August retreat to be able to review it with our,
Looking
leadership
forward
team.
to that day.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I do not have anything. Does anyone else have anything for the?
I got two quick
Yes.
things, Mr. Chairman. Our color guard and percussion are going to be participating in NESBA finals this week, and both on Saturday up at the Duncan DCU Center in Worcester. They moved it this year. It's NESBA's 40th anniversary. They moved it there. Believe it or not, our color guard is ranked number 2 in the country in the WGI circuit.
Wow.
After going to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania a couple of weeks ago and taking everything that they were able to take. And they're going to be in Dayton, Ohio for national finals, the April 6th to the 9th, so wishing them well.
Best of luck to them, absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Nunes. Dr.
Can
Jenkins?
I just remind everyone that the town elections are on April 4th? School committee, select board, as well as an important question about the police station. So please turn out to vote.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Dartmouth School Committee is, I believe, April 10th, 2017, and that is the joint
That's the
meeting.
joint meeting?
That is the joint meeting.
Now, we're going to have a meeting after, or we're just going to have that meeting, or we don't know?
We may have to, we'll
Figure
talk
it out,
about,
hash it
yeah,
out,
we may
okay.
have to be able to go into another room and
come
conduct
back
some
down,
business of
yeah.
our own.
Okay.
Well, at that point, that'll be the first,
Organizational meeting.
Well,
the
there you go.
the organization of the school committee,
So
so,
the answer will be yes.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll
Yep.
plan on that.
yeah, we'll definitely have to plan on that.
That's right.
All right, at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with non-union and union personnel not to reconvene.
So moved.
Exactly. I have a motion. Second. Motion by Dr. K, second by Mr. Nunes. Roll call.
Mr. Nunes?
Yes.
Dr. Karafotis?
Yes.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Dr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Rowley?
Yes. Meeting is adjourned. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you for sticking around with us.